meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for the invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Hughes, would you lead us in prayer? Thank you. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for the opportunity to live in this beautiful free country. And we thank you for living in this beautiful community that is what you call home. Father, we ask thy blessings of wisdom tonight to be about us, that we might be able to be wise in our decisions. We also ask a special blessing upon our neighbors to the south, that the recent violence may cease, and bless those that are mourning at this time. Please bless our men and women in uniform, wherever they may be throughout this world, as they bring peace and keep us safe here and home. And also, Father, please bless those that here that are hurting and have needs, that they might be lifted up by thee. We humbly pray in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. Amen. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our council meeting. Mrs. Aguilar has additional headset for anyone that has any hearing. If our microphones are not working, we do have some hearing equipment for those in need. Roll call.
Councilmember Jose Calva.
Here.
Councilmember Cesar Soto.
Here.
Councilmember Rick Shelton.
Present.
Councilmember John Hewitt.
Here.
Councilmember Mitch Lindemann.
Here.
Councilmember Margaret Morales.
Present.
Mayor Robert Medina.
Present.
City Manager Doreen Watson. City Attorney Juan Carlos Flores.
Present.
City Treasurer Luis Pedrosa.
Present.
Each mayor for the record. Interim City Manager Doreen Watson is excused.
Thank you so much. Item number 5, we have introduction of Dr. Sean Spur, internal medicine physician, newly hired by Copper Queen Hospital in the city of Douglas. Welcome to the city of Douglas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say a few words about myself to Margaret, I work with. She's an office manager out over there a couple blocks from here at Copper Queen Medical Associates. I'm really enjoying the job. It's just a wonderful group of people to work with. I started about 2 months ago, but I guess I can start from the beginning. I grew up in Davis, California. Played a lot of sports, growing up. Had a great time. Then I went to the University of California, Santa Cruz, where I got an undergraduate classical music degree. And then I went on to play professional piano and backup vocals for almost 20 years, living and eventually making my way to Nashville, Tennessee, where I ended up playing for major recording artists in the country music industry. I was on tour with Alan Jackson, not playing for him, but opening up for him in some big, huge arenas. That was a lot of fun. And but eventually I did have experience living with my uncle for 2 years, who was an ER physician back when I was still living in California. And I really admired his work, and he thought highly of it. So, it was in the back of my mind for a long time to change careers, and eventually I did change careers and went to pre-med at Vanderbilt in Nashville. And then I went on to I was accepted at Midwestern University in Glendale, which is a DO program, and it was a lot of hard work. It was quite the transition going from musician to physician. That was painful, but I made the full turnaround. I left my comfort zone about 13 years ago, and now I find myself in a wonderful place. And then I did residency. Came out here from Phoenix to Sierra Vista, where I did my internal medicine residency at Cane Vista Medical Center. That was 3 years, and then I was hired by Copper Queen. And as I mentioned, it's just a wonderful program. We have the ability to translate almost any language that any patient comes in. If we don't have somebody to translate on site, we actually have we can phone call a translator and translate anybody. We also have physical therapy, which is right across the parking lot. We have urgent care and emergency department right across the parking lot. So depending on the acuity level of the patient, we can transfer them directly to the emergency department. We can transfer to Tucson if they want to, medevac if needed. We have a wonderful group of people working over there. Anything I forgot? Margaret? Yeah, so please come see me. I have a lot of experience, having lived a very broad lifestyle, dealing with anybody. It would be my pleasure to, see anybody who wants to, establish therapy. So
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Spur. If there's anything that council or myself can do, we're grateful that you're here, providing service for the community. It's always wonderful to have experienced doctors, and you think the best place to continue your career.
Yeah.
So, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're very privileged to be here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr.
Item number 6, discussion direction on prioritizing the annexation study areas identified in the city general plan. And for that, we have again Mr. Chief Pullen.
Thank you. Good evening once again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. As a recap from the work session that occurred just prior to this meeting, staff is looking to mayor and council to provide some guidance in the prioritization of the annexation study areas within the city's general plan. Kind of why we are here is the general plan is up for review again, which coincides with the census, which is knocking on the door, as well as preparation for the commercial port of entry expansion to our west. So timing's of the essence. In early April 2019, Interim City Manager Doreen Watson initiated discussion with city staff and solicited guidance from a planning professional by way of Ms. Christine McLaughlin from Cochise County in identifying that annexation strategy and prioritizing the study areas going forward. As noted, the city has adopted a general plan which establishes goals and objectives for the future physical development of the city. One of the preliminary steps in the annexation process is to conduct a study of the area being considered for annexation to ensure it meets statutory requirements defined in Arizona Revised Statutes, in addition to conducting a cost-benefit analysis of providing municipal services to the area versus the potential return on investment. Therefore, staff is seeking direction on the prioritization of the following study areas. The first area is referred to as the port of entry. It is an area of approximately 4 miles west of the existing city limits on the west side of town. It is a large area-wide boundary, approximately 8 square miles. Again, the majority of that is larger parcels. The second area for consideration is Bay Acres. It is the community abutting Douglas at the northeastern edge of the city, largely residential. And there's a grant project underway as we speak to connect city wastewater services in that area. County roadway improvements are scheduled to follow the completion of that wastewater project. Bay Acres, again, is probably one of those areas that we refer to as low-hanging fruit because of those considerations. And because of the reception that we had with the grant project to be connected to city services pursued. The last area is Furterville, the community abutting Douglas at the western edge of the city, approximately 1.8 square miles, again largely residential, and it could be combined with the POE annexation. So I know we talk about prioritization as if we want a certain order, but it really is your discretion on whether you want to combine areas in that effort.
Thank you, Chief. Any council recommendation on where it should be prioritized? Mayor? Ms. Linden?
I'd like to make a motion that we concentrate on Bay Acres.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Linden, just as a point of order, this is an item for direction only. There is no motion required. Thank you.
I would prefer to go for Bay Acres,
Okay.
for instance. That is what the chief says, the low-hanging fruit.
Okay. Bay Acres and,
Bay Acres,
Bay Acres.
and then the second probably,
Okay.
And second, port of entry.
and second port of entry.
Port of entry.
Okay, so I hear consensus for the prioritizing Bay Acres as the low-hanging fruit, and then for us to move on to the port of entry area.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask, before we give them direction on that, can we hear their recommendation before we make a recommendation on just the?
I think the purpose of them coming here is to provide us with the information and for us to take the lead in advising them. Unless, Chief, if you do feel that there is something that you would rather modify, we'll be willing to have a listen.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, to your point, the idea is just to give us direction on what areas to focus on, and focusing in on those areas, we'll be able to come back with a recommendation, just simply because there's a lot of information that will be gleaned from that study.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, if I could ask you, the chief, to just clarify for everyone what focusing in means. So we know that we're not voting tonight or suggesting tonight that we're annexing this area, but we're focusing on it. Can you please elaborate a little bit on that?
Sure. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, as noted in our general plan, these areas were already identified as available for consideration for annexation, and the idea would be to again focus our energies and efforts to those areas that you guys deem priority. And so it wouldn't be a final annexation or anything like that. This is very in the preliminary stages. There are a lot of steps to the annexation process, and there is a lot of time involved in that as well.
So in other words, we're looking at cost, areas, number of owners, all those kind of things. That's the data gathering is what you would do, and then come back with a recommendation of what our cost will be, what our benefits will be.
Correct. What we're looking for is the quality and quantity of the area, the population to be served, services that the city will be required to provide, and our ability to meet that level of service as we do for our existing residents.
Thank you, guys.
Mayor,
Yes, of course.
if I could add also, if we get direction on focusing on these areas, is looking up the assessed valuation, how that would impact the city financially. Also, developing marketing plans as to how the citizens would be affected and the services available. So basically, by your direction is we start to develop a plan to market that area and to develop the impact fiscally, service-wise as well, what we would need as far as fire needs protection. Those kind of studies then would go into depth as far as getting more solid data for a decision to move forward.
Very good. Council, so the consensus still, are you okay with the recommendation from council?
Yeah.
Very good. So the recommendation is to start with the Bay Acres, and then from there we'll move on. Thank you, Chief Owen. Thank you. Item number 7, presentation discussion by the Finance Committee regarding operating budget recommendations of fiscal year 2019-2020. And for that presentation, we have Mr. Adam Brake, Finance Committee member, who will present the committee's operating budget and the recommendations. Mr. Brake.
Good evening. All right. I want to start off by letting the council and everybody here know that the beauty of the Finance Committee is we fought a lot. There were a lot of disagreements. There were people on all ends of the political spectrum, people of all walks of life. This recommendation wasn't easily come to. There were recommendations ranging all the way up to a 3% increase in sales tax. And we were looking at those on the Finance Committee purely at the numbers, objectively, and thinking about how that translates to the city that we all love. So just kind of a disclaimer. Not sure where I clicked it. spirit of transparency, and I'm not here to be popular. None of us are here to be popular. We're here to do the right thing for Douglas. I'm gonna have some hard to swallow pills tonight. So, hard to swallow pill number one, we're broke. City's only been in the black the last 2 years because we dipped into our reserves to balance the budget. This is not only not a best practice, it's not sustainable. So, complete transparency, we are broke. We have a revenue problem, not a spending problem. I do believe that with the expenses that we look at the city, we're not being wasteful in our spending. We do indeed though have a revenue issue. There's not enough money coming in, and we're cutting programs, we're cutting hours, we're just cutting too much. There's nothing else to cut. As Doreen Watkins said, we can't kick the can further down the road. We're at the end of the road. City revenues are not keeping up with the needed expenses, and like I said, we're good at cutting the budget, but there's not more to cut. We enjoy low tax rates and paying virtually nothing for water and utilities, and that's a great thing. I enjoy that as a citizen, as a homeowner, but the city has no money, and that affects our lives directly more than I think we give credit to in the programs of various parks, whatever it is you want to say. And it's obvious, but we can't sustain this. The revenues just aren't there. Needed expenses, the cutting, this is not a sustainable plan by any means. And ultimately, the people who are going to suffer aren't for the most part the people in this room. It's the children of people in this room. It's my 3-year-old who's gonna have a heck of a mess and no recreational programs. That's really the future that is going to suffer. And for that, I ask tonight all of us in this room to really have an open mind in what we're going to say and what the finance committee suggested, because it really does come from a place of wanting what's best for this city, for every citizen of this city. So looking at where we were as of May 1st, declining revenue streams, no growth. As we said, revenues the last 2 years did not meet the expenditures. No money's not coming in. We use the city savings account reserves to meet expenditures for those 2 fiscal years, and the funding source is non-interchangeable. So, getting on the considerations of just for this year, these are the recommendations of the finance committee. Options to reduce the shortfall for the fiscal years is paying the fire truck lease this year, $170,586. If we pay it, it'll offset some of the expenses. Possible reduction of the Port of Entry consultant contract. So also, we recommend seeking different funding for at least $15,000 of that. That's not to say we won't break our contract to pay what we agreed to, but that we find $15,000, perhaps through grant, perhaps through another source. We recommend this, of course, as I mentioned, this is a Band-Aid for this year. This is not a sustainable thing long term, but our recommendations are that we do pay out that fire truck ladder early, and that we reduce or seek possible extra funding for that Port of Entry consulting contract in the amount of $15,000. And as well, one of the things we really looked at were the needs in the city for employees. Now, I'm a big advocate, as are everyone on the finance committee, of creating jobs. So as we're moving in, and just so there's no surprises, we are going to talk about a tax increase, the sales tax increase. But I want everyone to understand what that's going to. A lot of it is going to these immediate needs, which amount for about $500,000. For a grants coordinator, someone whose job is just to write grants, which a good grants coordinator themselves can bring millions and millions of dollars in revenue. And finance committee recommended that for any revenue bringing position, such as grants coordinator, that we pay top dollar. That may be 6 figures, but they bring in more than that, far more than that. City planner, SRO police officers, making sure we're getting these schools safe. That's an important part of our community, and parents in the community really do care about that. Firefighters, assistant aquatic supervisor, tourism marketing specialist, getting the message of Douglas out, funding a full-time city attorney. You know, we can read the list, but part of the money that we're asking for the sales tax increase would go to these new positions, which would very much serve the community in many ways, and especially emphasis on the grants coordinator. If anything, we get a grants coordinator and they bring in revenue to create the extra position. But that I cannot stress, and nor can the finance committee, how important getting a top dollar grants coordinator is. And it does, you get what you pay for with grants coordinators. And other requests, based on depending on revenue. So the road ahead, and we know from the last meeting, there's a lot of needs in the city. I know the police department, the fire department, talking about radios, talking about their communication infrastructure, things that make us all safer. Jennifer Smith, Recreation Parks, I know she's an amazing person, and given more resources, she can do incredible things for the families here in Douglas. Looking at the road ahead, the recommendation from the finance committee is a 1% sales tax increase. That would bring $1.75 million in revenue increase. Currently, Douglas sits at 2.8%, so we'll be moving it to 3.8%. 1.3 million of that would go for personnel requests, for getting our employees paid properly, for also creating those new positions that we need. Many of those positions of which will be revenue generators for the city. And $381,174 to go to capital improvement projects. When the finance committee met, there are about $700,000 worth of capital improvement projects. That's around there, right? So this would be able to cover at least some of that in this upcoming year, and then kind of tackle those off as we go. So that's our recommendation: a 1% sale or 1 cent sales tax increase. And things to consider. Here's a list of some of the other sales tax for other Arizona cities. Most of them, as you can see, they're above 3%. And, a couple things. First of all, these cities aren't counties with higher county sales tax rates than us. Cochise County actually has the lowest in the state at 0.55. Some of these counties top 2%. So you can't have the full sales tax without adding that in. So we're already at an advantage there to be able to, thanks to Cochise County's low taxes, actually be able to raise taxes for our city and keep those taxes at our city while still paying possibly less than some of these other cities are paying. Another thing to consider, these other cities, they don't have an international border they can leverage like we can. I believe it was the last meeting, Councilmember Hewish had mentioned, leaving out a tip jar at the border. This is your metaphorical tip jar. It's a sales tax. Everyone who comes and purchases at Walmart, purchases at any restaurant, that will get a cut of that. From what I've heard, it's about 70% of the revenue we raise would actually be from citizens from across the border. So rather than punishing in property sales tax and punishing those here, well, first of all, taxes aren't a punishment, but we're actually leveraging what we have, the resources across the border, which none of these other cities have that. I think that merits us, really leveraging our city sales tax and raising that because it's funded by that. Another thing just worth mentioning, we hear taxes, sales tax, and if your blood doesn't start kind of boiling a little bit, you're not American. We all hate taxes. The whole country is built on no taxation without representation. But when it comes to sales tax, it's such a small amount increase that it ends up costing our residents. It'd be about $3.86 a month from what we see. And really, by show of hands, does anyone even remember the specific amount, not percentage, that they paid in sales tax their last purchase here? No. The answer is no. We don't recall that. So when we're negotiating with a number that we don't even know. Sales tax. No one knows that amount, and yet it's thus making it, for lack of a better word, kind of a negligible amount. So $3 $386 a month, and I'm sure a lot of citizens of Douglas, you hear all the complaints. If you were to ask them if they pay $386 a month to be able to fix all those, I think the answer would be, here's $10, here's $15. The city's willing to do this. So all things considered, while our sales tax will be raised, and we will be one of the higher ones in the state, we also have the lowest county sales tax in the state, and we also have a border to leverage. And we can, no other city on this can claim that. So we can't compare to other cities, because we're not other cities, we're special, we're different. As I said, sharing the cost, 70% will be covered by citizens along with BSM, and 30% by Douglas residents. We got to reap the benefits. Councilmember Hewish said that collection jar, that's our collection jar. As we recommended earlier, paying the fire truck debt this year, paying it off, helping us balance, that's a short-term fix, but that was the recommendation that we're making. And another one is the 1% bed tax increase. The additional bed tax would add about $27,500 to be allocated towards tourism initiatives and can be used to fund the reclassification of tourism specialists, making the position full-time. So that would essentially fund getting a full-time tourism specialist in the city. And that would affect the bed tax for the hotels locally. They would just put that right on to the customer. And just so everyone knows, I have skin in the game. Actually, it's a bed tax as well. At Haven, which is a skilled nursing facility, we also are affected by the bed tax. So if you think I don't have skin in the game, I voted to tax my own building an additional 1% because that's how much I care about Douglas, how much I think we all believe in it. Went pretty quick, a lot summed up, but I just want to kind of reiterate to you guys that we're here to make the right decision for the city. We're not here to avoid getting recalls. We're not here to do that. We're a public. We elected you guys to make these decisions. We didn't elect you guys to essentially be a democracy. We elected you because it's a republic, and you guys have a decision to make. Finance committee thinks we need this. Frankly, some of us thought we needed more than this. And there's nothing says you cannot do more than 1%. 2% would be what would cover everything essentially, but the 1% for sure would give us that 1.75 million in revenue and at least get us on the right path. Questions?
Mr. Brake, first of all, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for your bravery to have those uncomfortable conversations, which is the one that we're having today, right? You brought things full circle into what are our short-term and long-term goals, and I just appreciate you having the bravery to stand there and tell us what we need to do, the recommendation. So I'll open it up for council members to share some of their thoughts, recommendation, or concerns to you.
Mayor, I just wanted to thank Mr. Brake because he was very kind in the discussion part about the finance committee. I was here. It wasn't a 1-hour discussion. It was a 3-hour finance meeting discussion where everybody had a different. I'm not a voting member. There were only 4 there for a quorum, but everybody wanted different ideas and but everybody came together on this with the leadership of Mrs. Morales. Mr. Brake, yourself, you were there, Mr. Mike Gutierrez, Mrs. Anel Lopez. Everybody had, great conversations. I wish everybody in this room was there for the finance meeting because we kept I'm not a voting member, but everybody kept the motion out to try to take care of the problem, and that's what Mr. Brake was talking about. So, like the mayor said, it's not an easy discussion because we're so used to having things, at a premium in Douglas, but like you said, we're at a point where we have to make the tough decisions now. Because of the needs, and also, if I may also say that there were department heads here that made their case to the finance committee on why, for a penny, to raise the sales tax because of their needs, because of their wants for the community, not for themselves, but for their programs, like you said, the leisure department. Chief was also here, the firefighters. Everybody said their piece, said their, what they needed. So I'm very much appreciative of that. And again, I wish it was streamed at least because it was a really good discussion.
Any other comments?
Yeah, Mayor, if I may.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you also, Mr. Brigg, for bringing all this to our attention. A couple of terms ago, there was discussion about raising the sales tax for all those same reasons. Reasons haven't changed. And back then, I'm remembering that there was opposition, but to me, that was a lack of vision. Imagine where we would be today. Today would look a lot different if we had done what we should have done back then, 4 or 6 years ago. Today would be a lot different. And so if we want to move forward with this town, and we all do, we just have to use this as the vision for our future, and then I think we should just go ahead and go for it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Just 1 minute. Ms. Shelton?
I'm like, swallow a hard pill, bite the bullet. Douglas, as you said, not just the last 2 years, but we've all just been hanging on every year. One of the main things I really like is the grant writer. As you said, we get an excellent one. They can bring in hundreds and millions of dollars every year if you get a good grant writer that knows what they're doing and has been trained. So, to me, that's one of the keys. And the other one is the thing with tourism. Douglas has a lot to offer. I don't know how many people, I'm very, if you want to call, I introduce myself, whether I'm at the Gadsden or somewhere else, I can tell somebody's not from this area. And they always keep saying, I've always heard about Douglas. Douglas has a lot to offer. I love the Vietnam Museum. At the Gadsden, I stopped and I look at all those young men that died in World War I, World War II, the Vietnam War, and the Gulf War, and the current war we've had. And, Douglas has so much to offer. And if we sit on our duff and we don't do anything, well, I'm like Mr. Lindeman. We're just going to be treading water, and and let me tell you, the port of entry is getting closer and closer. And then for people that want to come and live in Douglas, if we're ready, they'll live here. If not, they'll go to Mr. Bisbee. So we need to be progressive. As I said, we've just been treading water. Here we go down the river, and sooner or later, these other towns around will benefit the profit. And we might have the port of entry here, but we've got to look forward to not only in the budget, but expanding and annexing and so forth. So that's my opinion on what we should do.
Thank you, Ms. Shelton. Any other comments? Thank you, Ms. Brigg. Before we move forward, I'm going to read the call to the public, rules of decorum to the public. Rules of conduct will be followed by all calls to the public speakers. Each speaker will be given up to 30 minutes to speak. I will let you know when there are 30 seconds left to speak. I'll ask all speakers to observe rules of decorum and good conduct. I will not allow any speaker to make any personally pertinent or slanderous remarks. I ask the audience to observe the rules of decorum and good conduct, and no person shall interrupt the legislative proceedings.
Mr. Mayor? Yeah.
I know we have another item on there. I just wanted to make sure that the information was there as we continue on the agenda.
Thank you very much.
Item number 8 8, discussion by members of the Creative Community Institute Team Douglas, and update on grant-funded art projects. And with that, we have Mr. David Carranza and his team.
Mayor and Council, thank you very much for having us. This goes back to the time when the Mayor and Council adopted and approved the Arts and Culture District downtown. It's almost over 2 years now that we got together. Janae Sanchez, Jose Pedro Terán, and let me give a shout out to Mr. Escalante. He's homesick. He's suffering from lupus, and you can all share some prayers with and good thoughts for Arturo. He's a good guy. He was with us in the first round of funding, of which the second year the total is almost $50,000. No city funds are being used for these projects, and my colleagues are going to be presenting to you a nice presentation of what's going to happen with the art. We do have an artist with us here, and we're going to have an artist on the phone with us. We have Alex. She's due very soon, and she promises to name the baby Douglas when it's born. And we also have Estrella, that she's going to be on the line. Let me just give you a little heads up. The ADCCI is a group that's out of Phoenix, and they're a wonderful group that is associated with Arizona State University as well. When Janae and I got together almost over 2 years ago with this grant, we just jumped on it because we know that the funding is very critical for the arts, and it creates a lot of momentum. You can see downtown, it's created that. We have murals now. We've actually beautified the drugstore building with nice art history on the building as well. We do have some other projects. And I recall Mr. Lindeman wanting to have more murals, and I have a building for you, sir. It's already been okayed. We just need to get the artists, and then it'll be done. More importantly, the funding that does not come from the city that we can do as well. These lovely people are going to share a little moment with that as well. Let me just share some thoughts with you that are really important. Arts and Culture District is an important economic development opportunity. What it does, it makes everyone feel good. I'm sure all of you have art inside your houses, your homes, your big buildings, your offices, etc. It makes everyone feel good. But the nice thing for economic development, as people walk through and actually drive through the city of Douglas, they see things that are really nice. And that's what we've been trying to do to beautify the entire corridor of G Avenue. It slowly happens, but economic development as well as the arts, it really is something that comes with time. I think it's important that everyone knows this. It's a work of love. All of us right here, the group that are here, especially in the audience, some of the artists that don't say they're artists, but I know that they have spray cans and they may graffiti some of their houses. And I know Mr. Hughes has some spray cans. So basically, everyone has the art ability to work with love. The other thing is the students that were involved. They'll talk about the students that got involved. They also talk about the public that got involved with this entire process. I think it's important. The artists are going to be with us, so you can ask any questions, because I think what they have to offer is excellent. And please ask them questions on how they're going to do this, why they're going to do this, and I think you'll find it an extremely important presentation. First, I'm going to give this over to Jenny. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, members of the public. I'm here representing Border Arts Corridor, which is a nonprofit organization. We established ourselves in March of 2018. And so as David mentioned, we have been working in this Creative Communities Institute for 2 years. We were just granted year 2 of the funding cycle. And so we started this in the summer of 2017. And so the fall of 2017, artist Estrella Esquilín and Alex Jimenez came to Douglas, and they met with a pretty large group of people, ranging from business owners to students, teachers, education. And so they began to get a sense of our community. And as they were working on getting to know our community, our team has been working to, learn how to host artist residency programs. And so we're a team. You can see our team consists of course, Mr. Carranza, Mr. Jose Pedro Peran, who is a CAP high school teacher, and David Tarulo, who is representing Coaching College. And so we come together as an active learning network. And we've already gone through 4 learning sessions in Phoenix in year 1, and we're going to begin our 2nd learning session with year 2. And so it's all about knowledge and skills and providing yourselves with the tools necessary to rise our community ourselves. And so I will advance the slide. During our learning sessions, we were responding to some of the questions that were provided by some of our mentors. And so, we were thinking about how many young people, maybe middle-aged people, are thinking about moving away from Douglas. But there is this history that we all love and we're all interested in. And so we're also thinking about how Douglas is such a beautiful, walkable city. And so we are the 3rd walkable city in Arizona. And so with these tidbits and the engagements the artists involved themselves with, they began to conceptualize public art projects. And so my last bullet point, how can a creative engagement renew a small town's interest in their own cultural expression and history? And so with that, I will turn the concept of the project over to our Tucson-based artist, Alex Jimenez.
Hello, Mayor and Council, thank you for having me. So the project is called Reframing Douglas. And we arrived at this sort of concept after talking to members of the public. We had a little open session here in these chambers and talked to business owners and residents. And then we also went to CAS School and talked to the art students of Edro's class and asked them about Douglas and what their experience of it. And so it's a public art project that me and Estrella Esquivin have formulated, and the project aims to allow the community to reframe their surroundings through the use of sculpture. Residents and visitors will engage in a moment of pause to reflect on unique characteristics and history of Douglas, Arizona. And it was important to me and Estrella that our project wasn't just a mural that sort of would just stay and wasn't interactable. We wanted to have something that people could engage with and that might change how they see the city that they live in. So we came up with the idea of a viewfinder. And so just as a viewfinder changes how you focus in on the world around you, that's what we wanted the sculptures we were creating to be. And what they ended up looking like was going to be informed by workshops that we ended up doing in the fall. So we did one workshop with, it was a 2-day workshop. We started with students from CAP, and we walked around and did little walking tours where we gathered different things. We did rubbing of textures. We did audio recording. Some kids did poetry. They had journals, they did sketches, and all of this was just an exercise in observation and how to look at the world around us differently. And what the students were interested in as well. So Estrella and I both led our own group on different walks. And for my group on day 2, we met again and we went on another walk, and they decided that they really wanted to focus in on the Gadsden still. And so that was the site that the group of students that I was working with chose. And Estrella will be talking after me about her group of students and community members, because she had a mixed group group of Cochise College students, and, or it was only Cochise College students. So I had the high schoolers from CAP. And so my project is, I have a little mock-up maquette right there. I'll put it on the table so people can play with it, but it's a wheel and a viewfinder on a base, and it'll turn and go up and down, and then the wheel, just like the old viewfinders that we had as kids that would turn and show you an image, the wheel will show you an image placed in front of the site. So the wheel will have silhouettes, and it's going to be somewhat inspired by a wagon wheel and hearkening to the mining days when the smelter was looking. So the viewfinder portion will be aimed down G Avenue, and so there will be one scene on the wheel that you can turn to that will line up with G Avenue, in which you'll be seeing oxen pulling their loads. One of the first things I was told about why G Avenue was just so wide was because of its mining history. Then the other view will be of the Gadsden Haunted Dunes. The students were really interested in all the lore around Gadsden. Whether it's true or not, it's still really interesting, and it makes people curious about this hotel and just going into it. And I've stayed there, and it's lovely. And so this will be another view. And the illustrations, the silhouettes that will lay on top of it have not been finished yet. But this is sort of like what you'll be looking through, and then there'll be a layer over the top of it. And then the other view will be directly in front of the Gadsden of the street. And I plan to consult with some residents here to sort of decide what scene would go in the front of the Gadsden. I'm thinking maybe something referring to John Wayne, or just groups of people who would come in fancy dress. I'm not quite sure yet. So that portion is still in the works for me. And then, yeah, so if you want to later, the little mock-up will move and it swivels up and down. You can toggle it to see. So that's my sculpture in front of the Gadsden. And then Cynthia on the phone is going to talk about her site, which is Castro Park.
Okay, so I'm holding this Cynthia. She's joining us from Phoenix, Arizona. And so I'll put her up to the microphone. Take her
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Hi, great. Hello, Mayor and Council, and hello to all the Douglas residents that are there today. Thank you for listening to our presentation. Again, my name is Estrella Esquilín, and the artwork that I have designed for Douglas will be placed at 10th Street Park. Throughout my visits to Douglas and during our workshops, which Alex has already explained a bit about, we continuously heard about how special and well-used this park is. I learned through my research and talking to some people who live there that this is the most shaded park in Douglas, and it provides an opportunity for all sorts of community gatherings. While I was there, I was able to observe beautiful native plants, heard the songs of many birds, and the sounds of friends and family members enjoying the shade. I got to see young people gather there after school. I also heard about picnics that happen after some Sunday morning services. And I also heard about some pretty fun music and dance performances that happen on the center stage. You can go ahead and advance the slide. Can you hear me? Okay. So the path that we took, I did do a walk with CAP students as well as with Cochise College students. And we observed by using binoculars and magnifying glasses. We looked high, we looked low, and we saw a lot of what I just explained. The native plants, we heard even the fact that sometimes nature is manifested in the artwork that already exists in Douglas, which is kind of cool. And keep going. So these are just more examples of the awesome photos that the students took. And I actually had some of the photos geotagged from 10th Street Park. And there are so many photos there. There's so many opportunities for people to gather to observe beauty. You can go ahead and advance. So my viewer is inspired by telescopes used by birders and also the binocular viewfinders that are seen at popular tourist sites. You can go ahead and advance. I'm calling my artwork, even though our joint project is called Reclaiming Douglas, I'm calling this experience We Are All Desert Dwellers. It's a two-part piece that is meant to highlight the beauty and nature of nature and the community that already exists there. So one part is, you can go ahead and advance, Peter. One part is the sculpture, which is the viewfinder, and we're still kind of honing our design about whether it's a binocular or whether it's a telescope. We are fortunate enough to be working with Cochise College, and we're working with essentially a student fabricator and one of the faculty members there. So the complete fabrication of this project will be done local to Douglas and using the kind of ingenuity of the students that are there studying at Cochise College. The sculpture is made of, will be probably made of metal and concrete. The second portion, you can go to the next slide. The second part is, so the concrete base, or the metal and concrete, will have designs covering it, featuring native plants like yucca, ocotillo, and creosote, as well as topographic map lines of southern Arizona and the mountains. So these are some examples of how the kind of decoration is going to be on the base. You can go ahead. The second part of my project, We Are All Desert Dwellers, is actually going to be sandblasted footprints on the pavement, on the sidewalk that crosses the park. And so the sandblasted footprints will be examples of desert dwellers. So whether they are little bird footprints or coyote footprints, mountain lions, but also human footprints that look like sandstones. Something that I loved was hearing about how people gathered in the center of the park, and there was often dance festivals, so dancing there. So I love the idea of human footprints, dancing, being integrated with other kind of, wildlife footprints that are also found in southern Arizona. You can go ahead. And then my conclusion was actually, I really hope that people would create new memories at the park. I think the park is already very beautiful, and so this is an opportunity to engage with an artwork sculpture, and then also, get people active and maybe moving around the park in a similar but new way than they're used to. And hopefully it would call to mind that we're all a part of the community, and the park should be, continue to be used as a public space for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes our presentation. We're willing to take questions. The team will happily answer them.
Council members, any questions? Thank you. I just want to say that we're grateful for the continued investment from the Arizona Commission on the Arts. You all have made a huge contribution throughout since we've been here, Jenny and I. The partnership, collaborating, bringing tourism, local firsts here as well, and that's a huge attraction to continue to foster tourism that we hope to establish here. So thank you for coming down under those circumstances. So you. Shelton, let's say a few words.
Okay, one of the number of people I introduced myself to was across from the post office by front of Jones Realty there. And he said for the past 12 years, he brings several people to Douglas just to look at the architect that we have on our buildings here. And he says this is one of the most unique places in small towns in the country, whether you know it or not. I didn't know it, I didn't realize it, but when you talk about art, he says he comes every year, stays in the Gadsden for 2 or 3 days, and all they do, they go around and they draw and they take pictures of the architect here. So that sort of goes along with what I was saying a minute ago and what you just brought to us.
Thank you. As we jump into the call to the public, there are two items I'd like to read before we jump on there. Once the speaker is at the podium, he or she refused to yield from the podium after being directed to do so by the chair may recess the meeting for a brief time, or I direct the law enforcement officer acting as the surgeon at arms to remove the person whose conduct is out of order. 2, if a person in attendance in the audience violates these rules of orderly conduct, the chair shall first direct such person to refrain from the inappropriate conduct. If such person refuses, the chair may recess the meeting for a brief time, or I will direct law enforcement or acting sergeant to remove the person whose conduct is out of order. And this is ordinance number 12-1012. Thank you for the presentation. Item number 9, person wishing to address the council in writing or verbally on any item not on the agenda.
We have the request, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Ms. Fengman. Mr. Santiago? Not here. Betty Castillo? Ms. Castillo? No. Ms. Duarte? Mrs. Duarte?
Good evening. My name is Tanya Duarte, and I reside at 2001 9th Street. I would like to explain my actions of walking out during the last City Council Financial Committee meeting. The city has a charter that is basically the instruction manual and laws on how the city shall be run. The key word here is shall. It must be followed. During the last meeting, the mayor and several council members chose to go their own route and violate the directives of the charter. The city attorney and the city clerk urged them to violate it as well. I could not stand by and watch the smirk on your faces as you proudly broke the charter laws. Shelton, Hewish, and Morales advised that things were being done in violation of the charter, and you still smirk smugly. We applauded our council members for their honesty and integrity. We were threatened with removal. Such a shame, and I refuse to stand by and say nothing, as there is no excusing doing things the wrong way. And there is no excusing threats to the public when we are expressing our approval to our representative council members. And that is why I walked out. Thank you.
Ms. Luana Tiffy?
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, I invited about 5 or 6 friends from the Pierce Sunside area to come to our recent horse races. They never made it. In taking 191 towards Douglas, they turned on Glen Road that was also marked as the turnoff for the fairgrounds. See picture number 2. They traveled on Glen Road until it ended and was presented with 2 arrows, one pointing left, one pointing right. That's all. See picture number 1. There was no mention or indication of which direction to turn to reach the fairgrounds. Because they were surrounded by houses, they chose to turn left, thinking that would take them farther out into the movies, which it did. They went for miles, hit a dirt road, went for more miles, and finally turned around and went home. It would be helpful to review the signs providing directions to the fairgrounds as the Cochise County Fair is right around the corner. It would also be helpful to our visitors for some signs in the area of Pan American and 16th Street to help navigate them to the fairgrounds from that entrance. When I first moved back about 20 years ago, I was floored by the banners and the flyers that said, "Dance at the Gaston," no address. "Fundraiser at the Bushmasters Club," no address. So I think this is a history that we've had for a long time. We know how to get there, but we don't see things as people would that are coming into our community. And I think this is going to be increasingly important as we try and attract tourism. This request will also be presented to the County Board of Supervisors, as I'm sure some of this signage is going to be in their jurisdiction, but I wanted to bring it to you as well. Regardless, it is my hope that we can earmark a few dollars to help out our town, to help our town out with visitors and make it a little easier for them to get to the fairgrounds. Thank you for your attention.
Mr. Douglas Wright.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Being a newbie here to the community, I'd like to answer a question. Is the IDA a branch of the city of Douglas? Is that, can you answer that? Or can somebody here answer that?
Typically, good evening, Mr. Wright. Don't typically engage in conversation during the calls of the public. I invite you to come during any business hour, talk to our administrator, and or my office or somebody else. But would the council want me to just quickly respond to that?
Sure.
Just to answer your question, and I really don't want to engage in a dialogue, it's a hybrid. So the answer is yes and no. So for further details, come see me.
Okay. The reason I asked that is because I didn't know that grants were available through the city to fund private business. And I guess I'm learning as I go. Being an outsider, it's very difficult for me to wrap my arms around. I have nothing against the Gadsden, the Lopez family who owns it. But I was unaware of the city, being in a negative cash flow position, gave out grants to private businesses. And I will certainly be in line for these funds, knowing that they're available to us, being in your corridor of downtown here, because please believe me, I do a lot of business with the city employees, the residents of the city, the county, but these things do weigh heavy on my mind. And that is because I'm told we have a pool that is in disrepair. We don't have a card room for the senior citizens. We don't have an economics craft area for the senior citizens. There's so many other things to take care of the residents here of the city. And I said, I'm not here to throw darts at any one individual business, because I am a business owner and I plan on expanding here in the city. I do have a concern on where and when and who we are giving negative cash flow grants to. And as far as, I want to end with the sales tax, the comment the director made, and that is that we are below and now we'll be up in the upper tier of the sales tax in the state. There's a reason why we're in the bottom. We are very much economic inequality here in the city of Douglas. And when you say that there's a treasure chest across the border to pull from, the maquiladora workers and the average person down there, it hurts them just as much, if not worse, than it does the residents here in Douglas. Thank you very much.
We're going to keep the quorum, so I encourage you that there's no clapping after someone is speaking. Dr. Gomez?
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting me talk today.
Dr. Gomez, we would like for you to address Mayor and Council.
Okay. I'm really concerned how the city is going. We were going on 10-11, and there were 19 violations of cars parked in the front lawns. 19. Then we turned around, my wife and I came down and done 9 more. And the weeks, we didn't count the number of weeks that are not caught. So, publicly, I would like to lobby my councilman on the agenda to get rid of the ordinances. That way it'll reduce the work on how you have to look to enforce it. So, there, in one instance, there's a boat. In the instance, there's a car on the side, and a washing machine that's not for sale, it's just sitting there. Building, construction, material in the side of the front yard. 3 cars parked behind a tree that probably thinks they're hiding. I don't know what you're doing. If you go up and down the street with your eyes closed, it's really looking bad. I think somebody said that we should give the transit collect the garbage because over here is a third world. Look at your town. I challenge you to take it. Please put it in the agenda to get rid of it. You're not enforcing it.
Up next we have Mr. Richard Dodd.
I have some folders to pass out.
Sure.
Council members, Mayor, and to Mr. Colon. My name is Richard Dodge, and I wish to talk to you, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, council members, about railroad passenger service, which many people don't know about. One, I would like to make the public, or Douglas and Cochise County residents, aware of the service that does exist, and then what might be done to increase that service. Currently, there's 3 trains running east, Sunset Limited, and 3 west between Alabama Road, and the only stop is in Cochise County is Denton, and also stops in Tucson and Boydsville. From these tracks, then there are connections nationwide. I've summarized my comments in the over there. On the right, the near-term goals would be, I don't know if I mentioned that I'm a member of the Railroad Passengers Association, but I mainly here as a concerned citizen. One, I'd like to see increased awareness of rail as a viable transport option. Increase service on the Sunset Limited from 2 times a week to daily. And that is a goal of the Arizona chapter of the regional of the Railroad Passengers Association, which is both the national and Arizona chapter. Another is to replace aging equipment, which is many of the cars are going 30, 35, 40 years. And without being replaced and are in constant need of repair. I would like also to see more in the way of bus and shuttle solutions to places such as Denton and Tucson.
30 seconds remaining.
And that would be, I think, a significant goal. I put down at the bottom visions of the future. One, for the Arizona chapter is high-speed rail between Tucson and Phoenix, greater interconnections nationwide, and possibly a border line. So,
Mr. Mayor, time?
thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Dodge. What we'll do is that whenever a meeting becomes available, you know, you and I have sat down and we talked about this. I'd love for council to attend those meetings when they do become available. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Dodge. We're going to move right on to item number 11, discussion direction on possible investigation into inappropriate disclosure of... Apologize about that. Item number 10, discussion decision on approval of consent agenda items. We have a motion to approve.
Mr. Mayor,
Ms. Morales.
I move to approve consent agenda items as follows. Expenditures for the month of May 2019 totaling $2,140,042.19. Meeting minutes for April 8th and 10th, 2019. Industrial Development Authority appointment, Roberto Moreno. May I ask if he's here? And then dual contract awards to Shell Border Mart and Douglas Chevron Incorporated for 24-hour gasoline services for fiscal year 2019-2020. Workers' compensation insurance contract with Travelers for fiscal year 2019-2020. And liability insurance contract with Travelers for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Councilmember Morales, second by Councilmember Shelton. Roll call.
Councilmember DeCalvo?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 11, discussion direction on possible investigation into inappropriate disclosure of potentially privileged communications by elected officials or city personnel. Mr. Flores?
Thank you very much, Mayor, members of council. As the council recall,
I don't think that your microphone is on.
as council will recall, during the last meeting, we were directed to bring this item back up for discussion. And at this time, administration is recommending that the matter be forwarded to a county or state law enforcement agency to investigate potential unlawful disclosure, leakage of information, if you will, on that particular matter. The information I provided is on the agenda item. I'm open to answer any questions with reference to that, but the recommendation from staff is that city's best interest to get some closure and figure out what happened.
Very good.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a motion?
Absolutely, Ms. Morales.
I move that mayor and council have the leak of confidential or protected information investigated by either a county or state law enforcement agency, and that a report be produced on the matter.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Morales, second by Councilmember Lindeman. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor,
Mr. Hughes?
I don't know how narrow or how broad this will be, but I would like it also to include how personnel files somehow got out into the public also, along with confidential information that was given to mayor and staff. I think that if the council agrees, that I'd like to see that included also.
Ms. Flores?
Let me take a look real quick, Mayor, and I'll give you a summary on that. I believe the item is broad enough where that motion could be made, amendment could be made to also include that particular item. We know that the initial investigation was on the leakage of a Title VII notice of hostile work environment. I'm not exactly sure what Mr. Hewish is referring to, but it may be beneficial to specify that as well.
Mr. Hewish? Well, my understanding is that I've had reports back that personnel file of certain members in the workforce were also sent out, and also that information appeared, maybe not a copy of that, but appeared in other postings or things like that on social media. So that's my understanding, and I'd like to see whether or not that can be tracked down to how that would have gone out.
All right, so would that be curtailed to the participants of the investigation, or are we looking at an outside?
Correct.
Very well. So I think that's clear enough in the motion and the clarification that there may have been some leakage, not only as to the potential leakage on the notice of claim or notice of hostile work environment, but additionally investigation of participants that may have had their personnel file disclosed, improperly disclosed. So I think that's appropriate. We have the original motion and then the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Hewish, if you can please clearly state your amendment, place it on the floor so that there can be a second.
Mr. Mayor, would you like me to do that?
Mr. Hewish? Absolutely.
I move to amend the motion to include any leakage of personnel files related to this issue that.
Second.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mayor, if I can just quickly say, because I know not a lot of my colleagues here have Facebook or use Facebook or were aware of the situation, and maybe not those in the crowd and in the audience, but this isn't, when I first brought it up because of the leaks, I was reminded, and I saw some of it because, when you're friends with them and you interact on Facebook, you see what they're posting. This was not just, what you would call like a troll account, just to make fun of people, just to cause trouble. This account was made to damage people's lives and their reputations. And if it's someone that we can hold accountable, I think for the integrity of the city, we must do that, because there's a lot of our constituents that were unfairly targeted, they were brought up in such a personal way, and in some ways of racist also comments, not to, those who are not considered minorities, I should say. So, when it comes to accountability, I think we should be holding everyone accountable as much as we can for the integrity of the city. So, for me, this is more than just the leaks. This is, we need to find out how they got this information, like Councilman Hewish said, and also, to know who they are, because if we don't take care of this now, this can happen again, and we're just going to lose the trust of the public.
Any other comments on this side?
Yes, just like my comment that I think it's extremely important that we have this investigated and we find out exactly what happened. If there was a leak from a personnel member or employee of the city of Douglas, then there needs to be corrective action taken against that employee.
Thank you. Roll call.
The roll call will be on the amendment. Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. So we still have that first motion on there, correct?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay, and that was motion by Councilmember,
Councilmember Morales, and the second was by Councilmember Lindemann.
very good. Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva? This is the original motion, that the mayor and council has a leak of confidential or protected information investigated by either a county or state law enforcement agency, and that a report be produced on the matter.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. Item number 12, discussion decision in consideration of a citizen's petition concerning an allegation of city charter violation by Mayor Uribe.
Mr. Mayor,
And
and I apologize, just as a point of order, we did have a speaker request from Daniel Duarte on item number 11.
Okay, very good. Ms. Duarte?
Thank you very much. This will be very quick. I want to thank you all for making the right decision on this. It's super unfortunate that it took over 6 months to make that proper decision. That's something that should have been done the moment it was posted on Facebook, on the person's account that it was posted on. And as the leader of our community, you should have done that day one. But 6 months later, I'm glad we're taking the steps in the right direction. Thank you.
Item number 12, discussion decision in consideration of a citizen's petition concerning an allegation of city charter violation by Mayor Uribe. And since this alleged violation is against me, I'm going to recuse myself per recommendations from City Attorney.
Very well, Mayor. Mr. Lindemann, as Mayor Pro Tem, will you handle the matter?
Yes.
And for the record, the mayor is recusing himself for potential actual or perceived conflict of interest.
Mr. Flores, would you please provide us some background information?
Absolutely. At the last council meeting, Ms. Tania Duarte submitted a petition. It claims a multifaceted charter violations on the part of Mayor Uribe. She wrote the petition itself. She had extensive backup. She included it in your packet here this evening. In light of the fact that some members of the public have continued concerns over the potential or possible charter violation, it's pretty simple for council whether they want to proceed with action or whether they don't. I'm giving you a couple of options. Option one is that mayor and council acknowledge receipt of the petition and send a copy of the letter to the Attorney General seeking an opinion on the merits of the claim. And obviously, if there are charter violations, they would have the discretion to act upon it. And the second option is that mayor and council accept receipt and take no further action. That being said, it's definitely a council decision, up to council and their discretion. So you may take away the discussion. Mr. Lindemann,
Thank you. May I have a motion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes, Ms. Morales.
I'd like to make a motion that mayor and council acknowledge receipt of petitions and send a copy of the letter to the Attorney General seeking an opinion on the merits of the claims.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Morales, second by Mr. Morales. Any discussion?
Again, for transparency, we really need to follow up on this and not take any further action on it. We need to have it resolved.
Any further discussion?
Oh, I was just gonna mention the same thing, and, you know, when the decisions come out anytime that, we send something to the Attorney General, or when the constituent sends something that, again, has to do with us, I think that needs to be posted on the website as far as the conclusion, so then everybody can know, because if we just send it, then nobody knows what the outcome is. I mean, again, that's not transparency, so we have to be as transparent as possible.
Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tempore, we do have two speaker requests.
Thank you. Mr. Duarte?
Mr. Mayor Pro Tempore, these lights out, you know. I'm being dark.
Again, I'll be very quick on this. This is just about doing the right thing and letting the public know that the right thing is being done. And I just hope that you make the correct decision and look into this further and let us know, is the right thing being done? Is it not being done? And for everyone to know that the charter needs to be followed. That's it. Thank you.
Mrs. Robles?
My name is Olga Robles. I live at 809 8th Street. Thank you, Mayor and Council. It's nice to come before you again with the same question. Our city charter was written to be obeyed, and our mayor has not done that, because when he removed the city manager, he only had 4 persons voting, including him 4. The council may remove the manager at any time by a 5/7 vote of its members. It requested the council to grant him a public hearing within 30 days following notice of removal. He did not do it. He did it his way, and he only had 3 councilmen and himself. That is a violation of our city charter. Our city charter was written for every mayor and every councilman to obey, and I think it should be obeyed. He decided that he wanted some Christmas trees. He spent $10,000 and $10,803.63 on the outside Christmas tree. On the inside Christmas tree, he spent $2,000. Now, this is why our city is in problems. This is not the only expense, by the way. I could stay here all night and tell you of different things that have happened where our charter has not been obeyed and gone down the line the way it should have been. But the thing is this: how long and how many things does the mayor have to not obey in our city? He comes and reprimands every citizen here as to how to behave in a meeting, We've been coming to meetings for years, and we've never had to been reprimanded like this. At the time when Mr. Rodriguez was the mayor, there's people that spoke up to 20 and 15 minutes. And nobody complained. Citizens must be heard. I'm not asking for that, but I'm asking for the
30 seconds.
mayor to have enough respect as to let a person speak, to let him at least breathe before he can make his decision to say, shut up, in other words. Thank you.
Thank you, Olga.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tempore?
Yes. Motion carried.
For the record, Mayor will return at 7:32 p.m.
Mayor, before we go on, may I add something really quick? I'm freezing, and then I want to know if the audience is.
Mr. Shelton got the use of Bahamas. That's cold. And council member down there at the end, I'm hungry. All right, moving right along. Item number 13, discussion decision on approval of third reading of ordinance number 19-1103, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, to undertake a minor departmental reorganization affecting the Public Works Department and the city management, and amending ordinance number 631, ordinance 673, ordinance number 728, ordinance number 848, ordinance number 04871, ordinance number 09-954, ordinance number 131027, and ordinance number 18-1086, and establishing the severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof. Mrs. Pedrosa. This time I got it right.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is the third reading. As we have discussed in the past few meetings, we have a reorganization outlined where, due to recent and foreseeable changes in the operations of the city, we are recommending some changes to the organization. And those would be the creation of a planner position, the creation of a grants coordinator. It's the creation also of a wastewater lab technician at the wastewater division. And that's also going to include a wastewater plant operator. And also some reclassifications for an environmental specialist and the IT intern to now be an IT technician. And just some changes to our job description for the Public Works Director position.
Wonderful. May I have a motion to approve?
Mayor,
Mr. Lindeman?
I move that the mayor and council approve the third reading of ordinance number 19-1103 by number and title only.
Is there a second? Second. Motion by Councilmember Lindeman, second by Councilmember Shelton. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries.
In order to the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, to undertake a minor departmental reorganization affecting the Public Works Department and city management, and amending ordinance number 631, ordinance number 673, ordinance number 728, ordinance number 848, ordinance number 04-871, ordinance number 09-954, ordinance number 13-1027, and ordinance number 18-1086, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Thank you. Item number 14, discussion decision on approval of third reading of ordinance number 19-1105, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, modifying Title 10 of the Douglas Municipal Code relating to vehicles and traffic pertaining to penalties for civil traffic violations, vehicle impound fees, and commercial vehicle parking under Chapter 10, 16, 1018, 1028, 1032, and 1044, respectively, by amending ordinance number 482, 806, 07-908, and 18-1093, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof. Chief Fuller.
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this is the third reading of the ordinance. Again, it's primarily a housekeeping to amend the Douglas Municipal Code to account for assessments that were passed by statute and imposed by statute, as well as adding a new ordinance that addresses the parking of commercial vehicles in residential areas, inclusive of on residential property.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hughes.
Move that the Mayor and Council approve the third reading of ordinance number 19-1105 by number and title only.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hughes, second by Councilmember Morales. Any discussion?
Mayor, I just have one question.
Sure.
Chief, when you added the commercial vehicle parking on the property, that's not including the street outside of somebody's house.
It is, Mr. Lindeman and members of the council. It would be inclusive of parking within a residential area. And again, this is focused on commercial vehicles. We're talking about semi-trucks and trailers.
I guess I didn't understand that in the first couple of readings. What if that's a person's livelihood and that's their vehicle?
I understand, Mr. Mayor and Councilmember Lindeman. The idea here is public safety. These trucks are larger than your normal vehicle. They do cause line of sight obstructions for vehicles, as well as noise. Some of these trucks are left running, or the refrigeration trailers are left running. That causes disturbance for their neighbors.
Thank you.
Mr. Picard, take a question from Chief Fuller.
Yeah, Chief, there was talking about parking in the residential areas earlier in the call, so this is not the same thing, right? This is, like you said, commercial trucks and semis. But there's no ordinances against, overloading, maybe parking too many things like on a residential property?
That would be a separate ordinance that's already in place.
Chief, I have a question. How many complaints do you receive monthly pertaining to this particular issue?
I don't have specific numbers, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, but I do know that we receive a number of these complaints. We've seen the number of these vehicles that would be parking violations once this ordinance passes. And with the expansion of the port of entry and the potential for additional trucking companies to come and operate within the city limits, I think it's imperative that we take this step now.
Meaning you're saying, look, we have to start holding people accountable. And once the port of entry comes through, look, these are some of our guidelines that everyone has to follow. Will the public, I'd like for the information to be, if it passes with the majority here, for the information to be made available to the public as soon as possible with the modifications and changes to the ordinance.
That would be the case, Mr. Mayor, and I think it's just general courtesy that anytime we implement a new policy change or law change, that we kind of take steps to start out with educating the public. That's our biggest advocate in enforcement, is just education. If people understand the reasons behind it and that it is now a law, most will comply, and then we move into warnings and citations.
Very good. Thank you.
I have one more comment, if I may. Chief, you mentioned warnings. is there like a 30-day period of warning of a person that's doing that, or parking that doesn't quite understand that we've changed the rules?
I think the idea, Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Lindeman, would be that when we observe the violations or we receive a complaint, that we make that first attempt to educate that individual and gain their willful and voluntary compliance. That could be so much as a verbal warning or a written warning at that contact. Any future violation that we could address by citation.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Shelton, that was my exact question.
Mr. Mayor, if I may also comment now that, I mean, Chief, you sort of put it into perspective. At the same time, I know you mentioned leaving, generators on, leaving, noisy stuff on. At the same time, when you park those, where there's families, there's kids around, we don't know what they have inside at the same time, right? So, I mean, this could be a safety issue when it comes to that also.
Potentially.
Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
An ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, modifying Title 10 of the Douglas Municipal Code relating to vehicles and traffic pertaining to penalties for civil traffic violations, vehicle impounds and commercial vehicle parking under Chapter 10.16, 10.18, 10.28, 10.32, and 10.44 respectively, by amending Ordinance 482, Ordinance 806, Ordinance 07908, and Ordinance 18-1093, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Item number 15, discussion decision on approval of second reading of ordinance number 19-1107, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, levying upon the assessed valuation of the property within the City of Douglas, subject to taxation, a certain rate upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to rise the amount estimated to be required in the annual budget, and providing funds for general municipal expenses, all for the fiscal year ending the 30th day of June 2020, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Mr. Mayor,
Mrs. Nellis?
I move that Mayor and Council approve the second reading of ordinance number 19-1107 and to place it on third reading by number and title only.
Second. Motion by Councilmember Morales, second by Councilmember Hewish. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries.
An ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, levying upon the assessed valuation of the property within the City of Douglas, subject to taxation, a certain rate upon each $100 of valuation sufficient to raise the amount estimated to be required in the annual budget, and providing funds for general municipal expenses all for the fiscal year ending the 30th day of June 2020, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof.
Item number 16, discussion decision on approval of first reading of ordinance number 19-1109, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending ordinances 718-837 and 10-987, and adjusting fees for parks and recreation, center facilities, and programs in order to recover operating costs, establishing severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof. Mr. Pedrosa, this time you won't get away.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Council. Before you today is the first reading of some operational revisions to Title 12, as well as some fee revisions involving special event permits, parks and recreation, aquatics, and the visitor center. The operational changes involve the responsibility of special event permits currently sits on the city manager. With that, it causes inefficiencies as far as processing permits in a timely fashion, getting those approved to the city manager's office, creating a little bit of a bottleneck. The operational activity involved with most special event permits lies within the Parks and Recreation area, which is mainly the responsibility or those seeking those special events are seeking the use of those facilities. Therefore, that responsibility, we're changing that responsibility to be placed on Parks and Recreation. We also added just the different leagues that we established some rules that the Parks and Recreation maintenance staff can allow these leagues to properly use the field and will allow city staff to properly use the field, meaning that leagues will need to be off the field at certain times so that we can give the field proper rest and the grass can grow back. Basically establishing those within Title 12. And then the fee revisions, basically the concept here in fee revisions was looking at cost recovery, not looking at profit or anything in that regard, but fees have not been revised. The earliest that I saw that these fees were revised were in 2010, and the latest was probably sometime in the 90s, I believe. We found out that there's several processings and permits that we're issuing that we are not fully recovering costs, and at times we're not even charging for those permits, yet we're spending staff time and as well as supplies, paper, printing, things like that to produce those permits, and yet we're not doing any cost recovery. A perfect example of that was the liquor permit that we issued for the parks. For the eligible parks, that is, 8th Street Park, 15th Street Park, and Airport Park, establishing a $10 minimum permit fee. Right now, we currently don't charge anything. We also revised our recreation fees. We did numerous analysis, compared ourselves to similar cities, as well as figured out costs involved with serving the public. As far as the recreation program, our goal was not to fully recover costs. It's actually around 50 to 60% cost recovery. And right now with these fees, it's probably that's what it will be at 50%. With the hike in the minimum wage and the cost of delivering service, we were charging fees based on the $5.15 minimum wage cost to deliver service. Now it's costing us $12, more than twice as much to deliver service per hour per temporary worker that we have to hire to deliver that same service. So as you can see, we were definitely behind on recouping some of those costs. Some of the other logic involved was looking at the CPI index, consumer product index that we follow, how much that has increased as far as the cost of delivering service. So that played into revising these fees. As I mentioned, we were also not charging for some fees. We constantly get asked for the use of lights for different types of special events. Again, that's the cost to the city in setting up those lights and the use of the lights, as well as bleachers, portable stage use, all those different mechanisms, all those different types of services are being requested, yet there's no fees involved or any cost recovery for that. We looked at our swim rates. Our swim rates, we were pretty competitive with other cities. I think those were left as is, except for some passes, where we thought that there was some inequalities in the way that we were charging for passes. So we're bringing up those to be equal amongst the other passes that we're offering. We added some nonprofit fees as well for the visitor center and the use of that facility. That facility was meant to be used mainly for nonprofits, but we've since expanded that use to other entities that have requested the use for that. So we definitely added those two tiers of charging for those fees. Another one was, private parties at the Aquatic Center, again, charging fees that were, based on the prior minimum wage. We weren't totally recouping our costs. And that involves sometimes, basically reserving the Aquatic Center for a particular party. Therefore, those users should pay the exact cost of running those private parties. Actually, those fees were not entitled, so we're actually implementing it into the title. There's various other fee revisions. I'd be happy to answer questions in. I just meant to give you a brief description of this, but there's, as you can see in front of you in your agenda, there's various bullet points there.
Thank you, Mr. Osa. We'll put a motion on the floor so we can open it for discussion. I have a motion to approve.
Mayor, I move that the mayor and council approve the placement of ordinance number 19-1109 on its first reading by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lindemann, second by Councilmember Shelton. Council members? Mr. Hewitt?
First, this kind of catches me by surprise, and so if I'm caught by surprise, I'm sure the public has been caught by surprise also. And so, although this may be approved in the first reading, I would encourage that we get the word out, for lack of a better term. One of the fees, and we can discuss this more at length in future meetings, but the one that jumped out to me is the city adult leagues. And I don't know the calculation, I'm not running the calculations off the top of my head, but it seems like it's a significant increase. And I honestly, since I hung up the cleats and all that kind of stuff, I honestly don't know how many teams are playing or what kind of leagues are going on and such like that. So I just don't want to get to the point of discouragement.
Councilmember Hewitt, Mayor and members of the council, we currently are not running any adult leagues. We have left those to the people, the community, establishing their own leagues. So we wouldn't charge if we were to establish, adult leagues. Those would be the fees. Again, those were comparable, even lower than the cities that are comparable to us. That's what other cities were charging. And as you can see, it's not for the youth. The adult leagues is those that wish to recreate in an organized league that have those discretionary funds to spend. And if we do get into these adult leagues, if we get pushed that way, which I would hope that we don't, I would hope that those leagues stay within the community and they get managed by those community members. That's the best way to really go about it. But if we do, I think this is a fair cost.
If I may, another moment, please. Also, I was asked by Mr. Brake if I would inquire as far as the racquetball punch pass. It says for seniors, and he was wondering if there could be a sliding scale based on your BMI.
Do you have a question here on this side? Council members? No? No question? No. Roll call?
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewitt?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. Number one, Ms. Lindemann?
I move that the mayor and council approve the first reading of ordinance number 19-1109 and place it on second reading by number and title only.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lindemann, second by Councilmember Morales. And I do have a question for you, Mr. Pedrosa, and it's kicking my around. How long have you been contemplating this reassessment of fees?
Mr. Mayor, we started discussing about 2.5 months ago. I think we started having meetings, and then we started the research.
Thank you. And I think that's what Mr. Hughes is hoping for, that when we do have the second reading, that we'll have a little bit more information in comparing, just like how we did with the budget. Very good. Okay. Roll call?
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, motion carries.
Members of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending ordinances 718, 837, and 10-987, and adjusting fees for parks and recreation center facilities and programs in order to recover operating costs, establishing the severability of components of ordinance, and establishing an effective date thereof.
Item number 17, discussion decision on approval of first reading of ordinance number 19-1110, an ordinance of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending the Douglas Municipal Code, Chapter 512, Cable Communications, Code Definitions, Cable Services, /television license encroachments and other use in the public right-of-way to comply with Arizona state law requiring the use of a uniform video service license agreement effective July 1st, 2019, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof. Mr. Flores?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll be presenting for the podium if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Very well. Mayor, members of council, this item is basically a clarification and compliance with state law. From what I've been able to gather, there was some cities that had franchise agreements with various cable operators. And in addition to the franchise agreement, which is typically 5% fee that's governed by statute, cities were also charging a separate application fee, and some cities were as high as 10,000, and I even heard of cities charging more than that. So the legislature stepped in and basically said that cable franchising and licensing was a statewide concern, and so now the cable companies have legal option to apply for a license as opposed to franchise license agreement, which basically, I believe, in my opinion, it was the state legislature telling various cities that they could no longer charge outrageous application fees to the various companies and make money from them. So that's a rather brief explanation. Does that give you sufficient basis, understanding of what we're doing here this evening, members, council?
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hewish, I move that the Mayor and Council approve the placement of ordinance number 19-1110 on its first reading by number and title only.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call?
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries.
By the way, just closing it, I forgot to mention, we were not one of the cities charging for application fee, so I don't think the cable companies are gonna be using this alternative method in order to do away with the application fee. And I apologize for that.
Mr. Mayor, Mr. Hewish, move that the Mayor and Council approve the first reading of ordinance number 19-110 and to place it on second reading by number and title only.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales.
Point of order.
Excuse me?
Mr. Hewish, did you say 110? It's 1110.
That's what I said, 1110.
Okay, thank you.
Very good.
But I did, I said it now.
On the record.
Thank you.
Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Councilmembers, any comments, discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries.
Mr. Mayor? Yes, I'm sorry, I am so sorry.
In order to the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending the Douglas Municipal Code, Chapter 5.12, Cable Communications, Code Definitions, Cable Services /Television License, encroachments, and other uses in the public right-of-way to comply with Arizona state law requiring the use of a uniform video service license agreement effective July 1, 2019, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
No, if I can, Mr. Mayor, the next two agenda items, I know they have to do with the budget, and I was just curious about the order. I just know some things that members of the council didn't want to have in the budget, whether or not that would affect their vote on increasing the sales tax, but I couldn't come up with what's better. But I don't know if any other council members would feel it's better than the other to go first, or just take them like they are.
Council members, do you want to take them as it was prepared by finance and along with the city manager, or do you guys want to move on with?
Can we move 19 up there and then do 18?
It's up to council to decide how you want to, do you want to leave it as is, or do you want to move items?
If I may, from what my understanding, and I'm guessing this is why they ordered it this way, was because there's a lot of factors, and maybe Mr. Bray can comment on it too, where this plays a role in the majority of what's going to be in number 19.
Okay.
Right. So really reorganizing maybe one department won't make.
So then we'll leave it as is. So we'll jump into number 18, discussion decision on approval of first reading of ordinance number 19-1111, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending the model city tax code of the city of Douglas to increase the sales/use tax rate from 2 8/10%, 2.8 to 3 8/10, 3.8, commencing on October 1st, 2019. Amending ordinance 573-821 and 08-937, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof. Mr. Mendoza.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. The city manager and the finance committee, as you know, recommended the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget to include a 1 cent sales to use tax increase as well as a bed tax increase, 1 cent. Before you is this item to take action to raise that tax. Reading as mentioned, if this were to pass, the earliest it could become effective would be October. Therefore, we had mentioned that it would levy $1.75 million per year. That's accurate. However, if it begins in October, 3 quarters of our fiscal year, so that would be $1.3 million is what we're looking at. There's some sales tax categories that are governed by statutes that we would not be able to take action on, and that's the residential rental. That would remain at 2.80. That would need to go out to the voters if they wish to change that. As well as the mining. That also is the same tax rate established by all Arizona cities and towns. Everything else is moving to 3.8%. Actually, the retail for single items of 10,000 and above would proportionally move to 2.8, as it was at 1.8 currently. And the bed tax was established at 2%, would move to 3%. All other tax rates would increase from 2.8% to 3.8%. All notices for the sales tax increase were posted on the website as required by statute, timely, and we are within the 60 days as required by the state. That's it, Mr. Mayor, members of council.
Mayor, may I ask a question?
Let's actually put the motion on the floor,
okay,
and then we'll just jump right in for questions.
Okay.
So may I have a motion to approve?
Mayor, I move that we approve the first reading of ordinance number 19-1111, an ordinance of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending the model city tax code of the city of Douglas to increase the sales tax.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, Councilmember the motion.
That the mayor and council approve the first reading of ordinance number 19-1111 and to place it on second reading by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Grijalva, second by Councilmember Lindemann. And Ms. Lindemann, you had a question.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Mr. Mendoza, has your office contacted Southern Auto, for example, and notified them of the increase?
Mr. Lindemann, no, we did not contact particular taxpayers. We just sent out a general notice on the website.
But they were noticed? Or just on the web?
Just on the website, sir.
I seem to remember that special dispensation was given to Southern Auto because of various reasons, and they were selling items above 10,000. And so I think that we should make at least an effort to notify them of our intentions.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor, I have one. The bed tax, which is about the only one I'm in favor of, is the reason statutorily that it can't go from 2 to 5, or?
No.
Have you done any analysis on comparables to other places?
We were on the lowest at 2%. Being at 3% is about average. I see some cities as high as 5%. So 3%, 3.5% is around the average around the state.
I personally would like to see it to go to at least 3.5, not 4.
Mr. Mayor, and then Mr. Hewish, would that then lend to discouragement of staying in our hotel?
I don't know about you, but when I go stay somewhere, I don't look at the bed tax. I may not like it, but I don't look at it. But that's personal.
Sure. Any comments on this side?
I just have a question. So, I mean, I think this is really contingent to Mr. Hewitt's point on the bed taxes. If we get more events to come, right? Because, I mean, we need outside people to come in for that bed tax. If we don't have anything going on, I mean, it's kind of, irrelevant. So can we come, let's say it stays as it is, and we see a bump in events where we know that more people are coming, all our hotels are booked, can we come back later in the year and say, to Mr. Hewitt's point, maybe 3.5?
Absolutely. Councilmember, because at any time you can come back and raise that. I'm in agreement with Mr. Hewitt. That's something we don't typically look at in our bills when we're traveling. Something we expect from every community to recoup that cost of the transient that comes into our city. It's a good way for cost recovery as well, for entertaining those folks. Our hotels currently are very busy. I can't really say that we are booked all the time, but our revenue is showing that as far as sales tax is concerned.
Mayor, I just wanted to, I have a statement, but I'm going to wait till the next agenda item to read it.
Okay.
So that they understand my vote.
Okay, very good. Ms. Morales, okay. Any other comments here? Mr. Mendoza, I do have a question for you. As the item is currently written, are you in favor with what Mr. Hewish and Mr. Grijalva are suggesting for us to modify the actual bed tax figure in there so we can have the best recommendation, or do you prefer it to be as is at this moment, and then for us to gradually then start incrementing these increases?
Mr. Mayor, that is a policy decision. However, I would say that this is one tax rate that we can be very, very flexible on as far as increasing it. You're not going to get many constituents coming in and asking lower the hotel rate. I don't think so. I think most of your constituents are going to be in favor of, the visitors that come here should pay their fair share. So I would say either way, if we raise it to 3.5 today, or as Mr. Grijalva said, wait until more events start to pile up, I'm okay with either option, to be honest.
Mayor, I'd like to offer an amendment.
Okay.
I'd like to move that the event tax be increased to 4%.
Is there a second for 4% on Mr. Lindeman's, second? Motion by Councilmember Lindeman, second by Councilmember Grijalva. Very good. You have a question? You have some? Oh, sorry. Mr. Soto actually seconded the motion by Ms. Lindeman. Apologize. Any other comments before we move into voting?
Mr. Mayor, I do have 2 speaker request forms.
Okay. Thank you. Dr. Gomez?
I really don't know. I attended the finance committee, and you all said that you were going to have a public hearing on the sales tax. Well, if this is a public hearing for the sales tax, it's a big sham. You should have one meeting for a public hearing, and have the people line up here, and let them come in and ask a question. That way, there's real transparency, and then you'll know how to communicate. Is this a public hearing? It isn't. Okay, let's go to the sales tax. I had it right here. The citizens pay 45% of the sales tax. 70% maybe that he mentioned is Walmart. The citizens pay utilities tax, transportation tax. I had it all here, and you know how this I can get it real quick. It was presented by them. The citizens pay 45% because they go to restaurants, they go to amusement parks, I go to coffee every morning, maybe 4 or 5 from Mexico, all the rest are people from others that I know of. They pay the sales tax. So 70% probably at Walmart, compared to the citizens, but 44% is the realistic. That's how it does. Right about when I was about ready to get out of the administration, I ran into a man in a dollar store. I was here. He says, Mike, this is my last dollar. I'm going to buy a bag of tortillas for $1, and I have to wait 3 days for my Social Security check. I can't give him any money. I should have left him alone. Well, it bothers me I can't even sleep since 2012 because there was a guy that was in need, and you're not considering sitting on the ivory towers out here, hoping that more bucks raining from the skies is misguided. So 32% live below the poverty level. I differ with him. He says all phases of citizens here. The silent majority is not here. They are not represented. I hope they hear me back here. They're not represented. We're all sitting up here now under towers and saying, oh, let's get more money. Some people just leave a few bucks above the 32% level. You better get innovative and review the budget. We don't need to have new jobs.
Mrs. Robles?
Mayor and Councilman, my name is Roberto Rossetti, 8th Street. As you know, all of you have a paycheck. You all work and you take a paycheck home. The paycheck is up to the prices there are now and everything else. Douglas is a city that has almost no work at all. The few jobs that we have are the fast food. That's all, and Walmart. And Walmart hires all people from Mexico with a green card. And they only work 3 or 4 days, and then they apply for food stamps. Who pays the food stamps? The taxpayers do. Okay, so now you're going to raise the taxes on people that don't have any money? Can you consider that? Can you take it in consideration? If you don't work, somebody else works. But my goodness, if you get a pension check, if you get a Social Security check, the check stays the same size and the prices go up. Have you stopped to think about that? You gave Cox Cable the right to put those boxes in. You never asked them, is there going to be an extra charge? Are we going to be spending more money? Is our customers going to be spending more money? And what happened? They did it. They asked for more charge, and now every month, 1 penny higher, 2 pennies higher. For some people, a penny is a lot of money because they don't have it. They pay their rent, they pay their light, they pay their gas, and the money's gone. And then when the water bill comes in, well, that's another question. That's like a payment. I'm speaking for a lot of people in this city that do not have the money to pay more taxes, not even on event payments. Thank you very much.
Roll call. Ms. Moon?
Can I make another comment?
Sure.
Thank you. You know, it wasn't too long ago that the school district was in dire straits, about 4 or 5 years ago, and they asked the taxpayers to step up and put the school on firmer footing. That was a tough act to ask, because that hit the property tax. But the taxpayers did. And now, today, the schools are thriving and the enrollment is up. So the question I see is, will we be proactive and put our city on the path to improvement or not? Thank you.
Thank you.
Excuse me? The enrollment is up from people from Orpieta?
Ms. Robles.
That is the truth.
Ms. Robles.
They should be paying tuition, and they don't pay it. You can see the people coming from Mexico every day, and we pay for that. They don't pay tuition. Thank you, Olga.
Even with your, Mrs. Castillo, if she does that outburst again, she would have to be removed from the chamber. At this moment, there's no clapping. You all present here to witness the legislative process. So I encourage you to respect as we do business here for the city. Mrs. Castillo. Mr. Pizarro?
I wanted to make a statement, but first I was wondering, since 18 and 19 are intertwined, I wanted to ask the attorney if it's appropriate for me to ask a question about the budget, since this has to do with the budget, to a certain department head here.
You're going to ask a department director regarding a particular position having to do with the budget.
About something that they're asking for in the budget. Is that appropriate or not?
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to say no. These are separate items, Mr. Howell.
Okay. Well, I just wanted to comment on the importance on why these two things are tied together. And I want to go back to the meeting where myself, Councilman Soto, and Councilman Shelton were in with the department heads, and the fact that we don't have money, but there's so much need. The firefighters need radios. They don't have radios, they're not going to go into a burning house. And that's very important because that affects their lives. If they go in without radios, they're going to, they don't know what they're getting into. And that's dangerous. And, you know, with the police, and this is why, you know, I asked that question was because, you know, they need emergency things. You know, they need communication. We are failing our employees if we don't have the money to properly equip them. You know, it was mentioned with the parks. This is what it's going to go into. You know, so I think we have to also keep that in mind, like Mr. Lindeman said, it's going to be used transparently for important things. We don't want to wait until we need to make a tough decision. Right now, it's not a popular decision, but at some point, it might be a decision that we have to make based on a tragedy, and I don't want it to get to that point. And that's just, what I wanted to say.
Thank you, Mr. Grijalva. Roll call.
Roll call is on the amendment. Councilmember Grijalva?
What's the amendment, that time?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, the amendment is to increase the bed tax to 4%.
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Yeah.
Motion carries.
I have some comments.
But right now we have the motions on the floor.
I know, so I want to amend the motion.
When the motion
I want to amend this one.
is? You want to amend this motion?
Yes, I do.
Now you're going to
Hold on a minute here, folks.
Yeah, we're going on the sales tax.
Okay, so we've approved the amendment number 1. And are you saying you have a separate amendment?
Yes, I do.
I believe that would be appropriate, Mayor.
Okay. But your Councilmember.
Okay, I would like, instead of going, the 3.8 is to go 3.3 and leave the hotel tax like it is.
Is there a second there for Mrs. Shelton's?
That way it would be half. It would be half, it would not be a full percent, it would be just a half.
Mr. Shelton, I believe the bed tax issue has been voted upon.
Okay, we don't have to worry about that.
Then you would make an amendment, instead of the 1%,
0.5%. And it would come out to 3.3.
0.5%. So the amendment is, instead of the 1 cent, 0.5%, or 0.5%.
Is there a second for Mrs. Shelton's amendment? There's not a second for Mr. Shelton. Motion fails. So we're going back to the original.
To the original, yes.
Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
No.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. We have a motion to approve.
Mayor,
Lindeman.
I move that the mayor and council approve the first reading ordinance number 19-11111, oops, 121, and place it on second reading by number and title only.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lindeman, second by Councilmember Soto. Any discussion?
Mayor, I have another comment.
Yes.
A few years ago, I was very proud to be one of the members of the council to approve the purchase of the ladder truck for our fire department to enhance their safety and operations. And I believe that those of us that did approve that had the vision for the future and proves it out today with one payment left, and we haven't had any difficulties with the fire or any unforeseen tragedy. So I think that this is just another example of being proactive and visionary for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lindeman. Any other comments from council? Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
No.
Councilmember Lindeman?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
No.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries.
In order to the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, amending the the model city tax code of the City of Douglas to increase the sales/use tax rate from 2 1/8% to 3 1/8%, commencing on October 1st, 2019, amending ordinances 573, ordinance 821, and 08-937, establishing severability of components of ordinance and establishing an effective date thereof.
Item number 19, discussion decision on approval of resolution number 19-1347, a resolution of the mayor and council of the city of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona, adopting the tentative estimates of the amount required for the public expenses of the city of Douglas for the fiscal year 2019-2020, adopting a tentative budget, setting forth the receipts and expenditures, the amount proposed to be raised by various means, and giving notice of the time for hearing taxpayers on the adoption of the final budget. Mr. Pedrosa.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. I'll do a smaller presentation than the joint one. So, as you know, our interim city manager, Jareen Watson, wished she could be here. She sends her regards, and she says she's here in spirit. As you know, she put a whole lot of effort within this budget, and a lot of work went towards it. We'd like to bring this slide back. We showed it at the first joint meeting, and reminding the council that a budget is not just a bunch of numbers that me and the finance department and my staff put together. The budget is intended to express values, hopes, and the community interests. It is a part of the three-legged stool of policy documents that align the city's vision, strategies, actions, or tactics, and resources. Every line item has a constituency. For this budget, we wanted to bring, obviously, change, and three different points that we want to make is we want to plan for a new economy. With the passage of the strategic plan in May of 2019 by the mayor and council, we established 5 different focus areas. It included the promotion of Douglas, increasing trade and commerce, increasing the collaboration and partnerships with other entities, improving community communication, and investing in infrastructure development and improvement. Next step would be to actually start funding the plan and setting an actual plan and within this budget, we're setting some dollars and putting those wheels in motion. And actually, number 3 is to begin that and beyond. So, where are we at as of June 1st? Actually, we're at 71% expended out of the $45 million that we put as a ceiling in the budget. Mr. Brake actually mentioned a lot of these points as well. We've experienced declining revenue streams, no growth within the city, at least since my time here within the past 13 years. Revenue for the last 2 years did not meet expenditures, as we've reported, about $100,000 in the red for the past 2 years. We basically have to use the city savings account to meet those, bridge those gaps. And the funding sources are not interchangeable. I do want to make a point because there were some comments within the public on that, is that the city has many different rules on fund structure and how we're supposed to use the taxpayers' money. One perfect example is our streets, our gas tax. We can only use that amount for street purposes, right-of-way fixtures. We cannot use it for any other purpose. We constantly get asked, well, the city's in the spending freeze. Why is there still work going on? Well, because what we do is we freeze spending on the normal operations, but those special revenue funds that we need to dedicate funding, such as streets projects, those need to continue. And there's numerous other examples of how we structure our funds, how we spend our dollars. And we can't really transfer money from the HERF money to bridge that shortfall in the general fund. By law, we're not allowed to. Just some facts on our revenue decline. As mentioned before, Douglas hasn't found a strategy to attract an economic engine after Phelps Dodge left. Douglas. We have had slowly declining job base over the past 30 years and some out-migration. We've seen that in our state share revenue numbers, that our population has decreased, specifically within 2017, 2018, we experienced that decline according to the census. So there's been reduced amenities, no revenue growth, and business closures. I think Mr. Brake mentioned it very skillfully there that we cannot cover basic city services. We've done many tricks over the years that we basically have run out of different ideas of how to cover those expenses without cutting costs, without cutting employees. We haven't done that, which has been commendable to all the staff in what they've had to do. But city expenditures have outpaced revenues, and in order to mitigate that, we've had to do different restructuring, different things within our organization to bridge those gaps. Again, I want to bring this in as a lighter note that we're not quite there to this point from this comedy series that we're, using sheep to water grass, or entire sheep could become food or sweater. We're not at all even close to that point. But certainly we think along different outside of the box ideas every year. It's like, how do we balance the budget this year? What outside of the box ideas can we come up with? The choices that we're left with to balance the budget would be closing programs, laying off employees, cutting services. That's basically where we are headed. Sooner or later, revenues again remaining flat. That's basically the path that the city is headed towards. Or the second option would be to balance the budget, generate new revenues, sustain the city, and become a fiscally healthy entity. Just to recap from the work session that we had with the Finance Committee, the City Manager and now the Finance Committee has recommended option 1, basically a balanced general fund budget, and option 1 incorporating the 1 cent sales tax increase, a 1 cent bed tax, which now is 2 cents, and asking voters for bond authority for large projects such as the full street pavement program, facility improvements, public safety improvements, large ticket items like that. It would be totally up to the voters to decide. But certainly we need that direction within this fiscal year to set those wheels in motion, to set those studies in motion that we've actually funded within this fiscal year, so that we're prepared adequately to present that to the voters. Again, our budget recommendation is, previous item showed that we are keeping property tax levy the same. We're actually decreasing the primary property tax levy. Although our assessed valuations went up, our taxpayers, at least from the city side, will not see an increase. Increasing the sales tax to 1 cent effective October would levy $1.3 million, as mentioned before. It's a revision of the 1.75, which was calculated over an annual basis. This is over 3/4 of the year. And as mentioned by Mr. Brake, $3.86 would be the impact to the average resident of Douglas. And just point of clarification, it is 45% of the total contribution from the citizens of Douglas. About $600,000 would come from the citizens, and 55%, or $733,000, coming from visitors. We project that about 70% of the retail and restaurants and 100% of the hotel tax come from our visitors. Okay, but when you couple all the different tax rates that you saw before you, it overall it comes to a 55% contribution from our visitors, and that's a direct contribution. It's not indirectly what it does to the economy to indirectly, generate more business and further increase our sales tax. That's just a direct estimation of 55%. Again, increasing the 1 cent bed tax, taking the ballot to the voters on the November 2020 ballot. So, what does the community get with the 1 cent? We'll go into further detail on these types of items, the numbers within it, within the following slides. First of all, it's working towards a community center. Mayor and Council knows that we've obtained CDBG funding, and we're currently working with the National Guard to use their facility, and working on the near to midterm federal funding timeline. They've already started their roof, as many of you have seen. For designing the community center, would say it's about 10%. CDBG funds allocated towards this project are around $150,000 that we can utilize now within the fiscal year, even this budget year, if we were ready to do so. But we program them for fiscal year 19-20. Number 2, downtown streetscape. We've heard the Mayor and Council and downtown merchants, as far as the downtown revitalization plan in 2011, request improvements on the G Avenue and the entrance into our city. Installing some metal artwork at kind of merging with the City Civic Group logos. A signature artwork of both ends of the business district. Landscaping with street banners and planters, and pedestrian-only areas were beneficial. So definitely going off of that study, taking that recommendation and making it a real project and funding it in this fiscal year. Capital improvement amenities for the community. We heard about the resurfacing of the baby pool and how that's causing cuts to young children using that pool. That was one of the top of the list there to fund that. The new Edwin Durazo field is lacking a concession stand. Our Little Leagues have mentioned that they need that for their operations. It's crucial for them to utilize that field. Resurfacing the basketball court at the 8th Street Park, or Veterans Park. Parks and cemetery equipment. We'll go into detail what that entails and the costs associated with that. And upgrading the visitor center bathrooms as well, giving that appearance to our visitors coming in of nice clean restrooms and making them ADA accessible. And other small capital items that we'll go into further detail.
Mayor?
Yes.
Right here is the capital improvements, Mr. Mendoza.
Mr. Mayor, just as a point of order, we do not have a motion on the floor at this point.
We don't. Okay, very good. Should we have that motion on the floor, Mr. Flores? Can we make that? Can we expedite the proceedings?
I would suggest, Mayor, that it seems like we've been implementing as of late the motion practice.
Okay.
I would suggest we do the motion.
Okay.
And that way we don't have to worry about it.
Very good.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. That was more of like a question for Mr. Mendoza, not a discussion item. Is that allowed?
But I think that so we want the motion on the floor so we can have that direct conversation with.
It's basically up to the council. It's up to you, Mayor, if you want to allow it.
Let's have the motion on the floor so we can have that conversation and discussion as we go on. We have a motion to approve.
Mayor?
Ms. Lindeman?
I move that the Mayor and Council approve resolution number 19-1347.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Lindeman, second by Councilmember Soto. Ms. Lindeman, the floor is yours now.
Thank you. I'm sorry to cause a ruckus here. Along with the small capital improvements, what I would really like to see is a full-size statue of Raul Castro in Castro Park. Just like they've got Father Kino up in Tucson. I think that's the least that we should be doing. We've named the park after him all these years. let's go the extra step, because he is one of our most famous Douglas sons. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Before you get off that slide, Mayor, concession stand include restrooms?
Yes.
Thank you. That's a plus. Maybe we should add that on there, that the concession stand will have a restroom.
Okay,
Mr. Chevalier, please.
how about the tennis courts? Redoing them,
Redoing the tennis courts, we did
and
not.
then putting up signs and,
We did not allocate that money. Basically, I mean, we had a lot of requests, and we try to prioritize based on the department's recommendations, and that's one of the items that didn't make it. One of the things that I did want to reiterate, we are working on different revenue streams, and these are one-time revenue streams that could come into fruition during the fiscal year, and we were going to ask council to allocate those to other capital projects that are getting off of the list, but we have some good sources that we might get one-time revenues, and we can apply those to those capital items that the council wishes.
okay, because 3 times since January, I've passed the courts in Bisbee, and we have Douglas people that are playing tennis. Okay.
Any other comments?
If I may comment.
Yes.
Sort of Mr. Shelton's point where, I mean, we should be fixing our basketball courts, our tennis courts, and the city applied for a grant, and the city got denied for the grant because we're not taking care of our parks. First, they want to see us take care of our own things, so then they could help us, redo everything else. So I think that's going to be a very important issue for what we're trying to do. Where if we can beautify our city and improve it, it's going to be easier to get those grants and that money coming in.
You know what, that is a good point, and I do want to point out that since we've received the Edgar Dulazo field, city has done a fantastic job of keeping up, and the maintenance of the facility has been impeccable. So I do agree with Mr. Vijama that we with these adjustments and modifications to our parks, will show whomever we apply to that we are vigilant in making sure keeping up with the maintenance of our facilities. All right, Mr. Pedrosa. Okay, so you do have more slides.
Yes. Number 4, the committee also gets public safety equipment. You heard the fire radios for each firefighter. That's 32 radios. 3 police vehicles, 2 fire vehicles, and structural helmets. The 5th item is personnel, school resource officer, obviously public safety related, grants coordinator, generating revenue, marketing and tourism specialist, promoting Douglas, city planner, that's the infrastructure and development and planning focus area, and additional staff in leisure services, public works, fire, and HR, and that's for improved service delivery. Again, I have a slide specifically of those positions coming up. And number 6, lastly, is taking care of our employees. Basically, our employees are our best assets, and making sure that we take care of them. A 2% COLA, which has not been implemented since 2016. Salary adjustments for employees that are 20% below market. An effort to keeping our talent here for the long haul instead of having them leave and seek other jobs outside of the city. Increase I would say, the time between steps to reach those steps, and adding an extra step for employees. Again, to increase them wanting to stay here, something to look forward to. Certification pay, again, increasing expertise for those employees seeking multiple certifications that's not required in the job description, but are willing to do that and in betterment of the city. And move our lowest paid employees up the pay scale due to the minimum wage increase. We mentioned our bus drivers that are currently at $12.17, and the minimum wage set to hit at $12 in January. We really need to move those employees up to keep ourselves competitive. Other budget highlights that we just talked about the 1 cent and everything that we've done, but we can't forget the other items that we included there. We've included the Mexican Baseball Fiesta, bringing that down to 1 game. Projected revenue of $25,000, expenditures of $15,000. Outside funding requests, we received 3 this year. The Rotary for their fly-in, the senior citizens for their holiday parties, and DART for their Meals on Wheels program, recommending to funding them at the same level as last year. And the golf subsidy, again, at $170. We need to be aware of that traditionally has been higher than that, and we need to be ready to support that if need be. There's no room for any capital improvements for the golf course, anything like that. And certainly over the years, the subsidy has ranged between $180,000 to $200,000. So we're hoping that they can stick to the 170, but knowing that could potentially increase. Under the special revenue funds, we continue our street preservation program, $435,000 allocated there. Mentioned about the bond election. We need to fund a road study from an engineering firm that can assess our streets, that can tell us what kind of conditions we're in, and they can recommend what kind of work needs to be involved within those specific streets. The transit facility planning, we've been awarded a $30,000 grant to begin that planning phase for the construction, the design and construction of a new transit facility that we can build here in the city of Douglas, and beginning that project.
Mr. Mayor, if I may ask Mr. Pedrosa, you were talking about the streets project program. I can't help but ask. It's been years since the city redid Pan American, and that has not broken down. You don't see potholes, you don't see anything. But then the other streets that are redone, you see potholes, you see the cracks. What's the cost between doing them like Pan American as compared to where you can have longevity compared to how the other streets are done?
Actually, Mr. Grijalva, the Pan American there was an overlay, I want to say within the last 4 years. So there was an overlay before we took it over from the state. So it has been maintained, which is why it's in good shape still, because it's given the proper maintenance to our streets, we can definitely get more life out of it. Lastly, in the enterprise funds, these are funds that have a lot going on. We are funding a water and sewer rate study, something that will tell us where we're at as far as cost recovery for our enterprise funds, something that we haven't done since 2008. That we funded within the 2 funding sources of water and sewer, $30,000. We requested a federal grant to fund a new well for our system. We're actually in need of 2 wells, but obviously that's our first step. So we're hopeful that we can get that appropriated from the Fed, about $1.7 million. So we budgeted. Finishing the AMI program, the automated meter reading system that's currently being deployed. That started in January. We're currently probably around 40% complete right now. That's about 200,000 left of different meters that need to be purchased. Beginning the Bay Acre Sewer project, we talked about that in the annexation discussions with the USDA grant of $6.8 million. Finishing the wastewater treatment expansion project, that's slated to be finished in October, $2.7 million. And the purchase of a new garbage truck, and that should be our last garbage truck to be fully equipped within our automated system. I don't expect that we buy a new truck next year. We should be good with that unless we grow substantially.
How many garbage trucks do we have currently?
Two new automated ones and two used that we use for backups.
So we have a total of 4. And with this one would be 3 that we have new, no?
3 new
Okay.
and 2 backups. We talked about those capital items that didn't make the list. We felt that these capital items just barely didn't make it. So definitely, if new funding sources come up, these are ones that we're going to look at. Specifically, the library, an engineering study to be conducted so that we can reconfigure the library and use the second floor for additional space. Obviously, you need to put an elevator there for ADA compliance. So an engineering study that can tell us how that can be done within the existing configuration. We're actually seeking CDBG money for this. So if approved on this project, we can use grant funding. Leisure services, reconfiguration of the airport park lights. We feel that the lights are currently being underutilized, so there's some form of change that needs to take place there to better light that park and get more activity out there. We have 2 hard monitors for fire. This is something that was requested under Year 2 capital improvements plan, so definitely that's coming up, and we need to think about funding those. The wind sails at the Veterans Park for the new playground. We're looking at different funding sources for that. A pole pump, that is actually on our Year 1 CDBG 5-year plan. That's not been approved. That's coming in, I believe, in the August meeting for your approval. And obviously CDBG needs to approve that project, so we hope that can be approved within the grant fund as well. And actually, as the construction of a new basketball court, and possibly working with the school district for a joint use agreement, that would be about $40,000.
Where would that be?
We're looking at possibly Airport Park. Just to summarize everything again, 1.3 million for 3/4 of the year. Where would that be applied? And here are the numbers. And we've also assigned them effective dates. We decided to stagger some of these initiatives within different effective dates to allow a little bit more revenue to be applied in different areas, particularly capital. The minimum wage gap, obviously we want to adopt that in January. That's when that law takes effect. Meeting the minimum wage gap and bringing those employees, the same thing. Adding the steps to the employees, making it effective January. The certification, making that effective October, but obviously we wouldn't pay it until those employees acquire the certification. The CMR, with the 20%, bringing them down to 20%, making that in October. The 2% COLA, the second pay period in October, is when that will become effective. In capital, $467,000, making that effective October, as soon as October. And reclassifying the new positions, that is staggered in many different ways, and we'll explain that in this following slide here.
I have a question, Mr. Mendoza. On not the next slide, but with the basketball court, are you projecting for those line items to be executed for 2021, correct?
Mayor, possibly 2020. If we get additional funding, we'll come back to the council and ask you to apply that funding if acquired. One-time funding can be applied towards these projects.
Terrific, thank you.
So these are the actual positions. This slide dictates the reclass and the new positions are at 471, 464 what is the total cost and making them effective during various times of the year. We need one firefighter, making that effective January. The aquatic assistant supervisor, making that effective in January as well. The attorney, making that effective in October, and that's making the attorney full-time. Tourism specialist, also funding full-time in October. The planner, that's a new position, also in October. Leisure services admin assistant in January. The SRO police officer, since that's being funded in conjunction with the schools, that's one that can actually be moved up before the October sales tax effective date. So we can definitely move that up in August. The wastewater treatment plant operator and lab tech, that one is funded strictly from the enterprise funds. It's not contingent upon the sales tax increase. Therefore, we can start hiring in July. Same thing for the environmental specialist. And the IT intern, since that one's a small amount of $3,919, and as we saw today, we're in dire straits of hiring that position. We are short-staffed with a lot to do in that department, and really that position needs to be hired as soon as possible. Those guys are making the sacrifice right now to wait until the fiscal year starts to get that position reclassified. The other group is the deputy city manager, funding that in January. The cemetery worker, funding that also in January. The public works admin deputy director in January. That one does affect the general fund and some of the utilities fund. And part-time clerical aid for fire, that's new funding in October. The HR analyst in October as well, and the construction maintenance tech also to be hired in October.
What's the construction maintenance tech?
Our facilities maintenance, those guys are currently with a staff of 5. They're the ones handling, building a restroom in conjunction with the schools, taking care of all the different buildings within the city. They are so understaffed that they can't keep up with their work right now.
Right.
That's one thing that we definitely need to get ahead of to get them more help. So that basically on the general fund column, it puts us at that $471,000 mark for the fiscal year. Next is our CIP. This is an actual detailed itemized list of the CIP items. We have 3 fire requests, station renovation, 2 vehicles, and those are to be placed under a lease program, not a straight out purchase, and the structural helmets. One thing I will note is that the fire radios, we decided to fund under the grants that we've already applied for, which we think we have a shot at. If that doesn't go through, we will use capital project fund balance that we've had there and we've carried over in the past. And if that wouldn't be sufficient, so therefore we will use emergency funding for those radios. Those radios are obviously at the top of the list and are our most recommended capital item. HR is in need of an HRIS employee management system that can help with evaluations and just different employee evaluations. Leisure services, mentioned resurfacing the baby pool. The equipment that we mentioned for Parsons Cemetery was the new Sand Pro, the dump truck, and the John Deere Gator. We also mentioned the concession stand with the bathrooms at Fairport Park, and making some of the bathrooms at the parks ADA accessible, and cemetery, resurfacing the basketball court, reconfiguring the visitor center bathrooms, roof recoating at the call center. That's one building that we have to take care of as a landlord. We have to take care of our tenants and make sure that that building is operational. Metal art wall in the entry. Again, that's art for the streetscape for the G Avenue project. The Port of Entry beautification project. The downtown streetscape that we mentioned. The visitor center is just in dire need of new tables and chairs for all the events that are hosted there. Police, 3 vehicles, again under the lease program. Some tasers for police. And the library reconfiguration of the tech space and the circulation area. As far as funding some one-time costs as well is the general plan, which is coming up for revision in 2020. And any annexation initiatives that we take on, there will be some costs associated with that. We need to set some money aside. As you know, the census is coming up. We also need to set some dollars aside for that marketing campaign. Total $467,000 funded out of 1 cent, with an additional $178,000 funded in the structure that I mentioned for the fire ratings. This is my last slide, and I'll entertain any questions after that. Other items that are pending is direction from the mayor and council. This budget is dependent upon the mayor and council giving direction to pay off the fire ladder truck lease early. As a matter of fact, before June 30th, that lease needs to be paid. So definitely, if that gets approved, we can balance the general fund budget. So that's considering that we take that initiative. There's no partnership established yet to bridge the $15,000 for POE consultant. We looked into that possibility. We didn't have success as of now. Therefore, I don't feel comfortable with us budgeting that if that's not going to be a reality. So we're actually suggesting that we budget from that capital projects fund balance instead to bridge that shortfall of the $15,000. And lastly, something that I still am very uncomfortable with is the final state share revenue numbers have not been received. Hopefully those remain the same. If those decrease, it's back to council and just re-strategizing what we need to do to meet that shortfall. Mr. Mayor, any questions?
Mr. Mendoza, thank you for doing such a fine job of being an interim city manager. Done well today. Questions for Mr. Shelton?
Question. Where is the money coming from to pay off $170,000?
From the surplus that we're expected to have this year. And the way we obtain that surplus, Mr. Shelton, is through spending freeze that we did, cutting back on overtime on public safety without endangering public safety. We're also selling some properties. We sold 2 properties right here across the street. We sold the property by the call center. With those different mechanisms, we will be in the black, and we're wanting to apply that towards the payment of this.
Okay. How much do we have left in our other account?
The reserve?
Reserve, yes.
It's about $4.5 million.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Pedrosa, if I may ask, how much were we expecting from the state shared revenues, just in case there's a shortfall, so we can more or less know what we might be expecting if it's short?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, that is about 30% of our total general fund revenue. So it's quite a bit of money that we depend on from the state. We have 3 different revenue sources. It's state shared sales tax, our state shared income tax, and our vehicle license tax. Just for numbers' sake, state shared sales tax is $1.7 million. Income tax is $2.1 million. vehicle license tax is $945,000. That's a big chunk of change.
Any other questions?
No questions, I just have a comment.
Yeah, absolutely. The floor is yours.
I just wanted to make a statement. First of all, as being chair of the Finance Committee, I wanted to thank Ms. Watson, Mr. Pedrosa, Ms. Monica Flores, and the Finance Committee members, Mr. Drake, Anel Lopez, Matt Gutierrez, and all the staff for their hard work on working on this year's budget. We are presenting a balanced budget, and there were several key issues addressed and discussed. And as Mr. Drake said, yes, we disagreed on a lot of things. The recommendations presented were reviewed and recommended to be forwarded to Mayor and Council for their approval, and the recommendations made, I agree, are the needs for the operation of the City of Douglas. And like I said, as chair, I agree. However, as a council member, I do not feel comfortable and cannot in good conscience agree with several items. One of them being that I do not feel we need a full-time city attorney, that we need a tourism specialist, and thirdly, that's why I voted no to support the sales tax increase. I agree that the city needs the money, but the climate is not right now. As a council, we need to first gain the trust and respect of our community, and my responsibility is, as a council member, is to my constituents, and my constituents are concerned because, as I mentioned at the Finance Committee meeting, they're elderly, they live on a budget, they live paycheck to paycheck, and many of them ask that I not support the sales tax increase. So I found it very difficult to not follow. I find it very difficult not to follow the voices of my constituents, and I have to do what I feel is best at this time as a council member. But thank you, and I know the needs of the city. I know that there's many positions that we need. I know that the departments are in dire need of new equipment. We need new police cars. We need another fire truck. We probably will be needing a new ambulance in the near future. But I just want to thank you again for all your hard work. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Yosh?
Man, I know it's late, but I don't want to be nitpicking the budget away, but by the same token, I think it would go a long way if we showed some discretion on how we spend the new funds that were approved through the sales tax increase. It's almost like we've been given this big box of cookies, and we're just opening it up and just chewing on them and chewing on them and chewing on them, and not thinking about anything else. And I don't want to sound critical by any way, shape, or form, but I have some suggestions, and I don't know how they would pencil out. They may pencil out to pennies, which of course doesn't make any sense to do them. But there's some things that I would like to discuss that maybe would help again further that confidence that we're trying to regain in the community. The certification pay, last time I asked if there was a difference between the needed ones and the desired ones, and I don't know that I may have missed something on that, but I don't know if they've looked at that or whether that's there or not. So, and again, they may be 90% needed and 10% required versus like to have.
Member Hewitt, combination of both. Those that are required are in the job description already, so they will not get any certification pay for that. But there are those that are still not required in the job description, but are needed for them to do their job or for the city, for the department to operate how they should be operating. For example, in the fire department, they need fire inspectors, they need fire arson investigators. So those are the ones that are going to be targeted. The need of the department is just not going to be any certification that they get. It's those that the department has identified that is needed and not required in the job description that would trigger that certification. And we'll have a policy in place before this is implemented.
Okay, because it seemed kind of high to me, is over $100,000, and a lot of it may have been tied up in the public safety retirement fleecing. Payment to retirement funds. Okay, and then the ones that are trying to bring those that are 20% higher than market rate, trying to bring them in. I'm wondering if phase-in could be, for some, and I give an example, some of them are, they would be increased 2 steps, and I'm wondering if it would be wise to go 1 step this year and one not 1 step, 1 pay grade this year, and then the next pay grade the next year. And you don't have to answer that. I'm just wondering if that's something that we would want to consider. And again, the majority of those increases, which are needed in the police and fire area, end up costing quite a bit more because of the public safety retirement. And it's nothing that these young men or women ever did, but that's the fact of life, the way the state retirement fund is there. And then as far as new positions, I am a little leery about changing attorney to full-time. I would much prefer to see as needed still, and I don't know if it's causing us any grief, but I think it needs to be as needed versus it's a full-time position. The tourism specialist, as much as I know that that's needed, I wonder if we're just a year away. And I think that one will be starting in October. But I'm wondering if we're just a year away from that, and I wanted to bring that up to the council also. And then the resource officer for the school district, with the lack of funds, I'm just wondering if that's a priority for the council. Then the other one, and this one's really going kind of outside the box. And I know young millennials like that outside the box stuff, they tell me. I'm wondering, because in looking at the city's organizational chart, it concerns me that we have so many department heads reporting to one person being a city manager. And it's beyond me trying to put myself in that position to see how I would even manage that at all. And so I'm wondering if we could, sort of fund the deputy city manager, but to have it include economic development. And I don't mean to get rid of Mr. Carranza, but I don't know if that position he could go into. I don't know any of those type of details. But I'm wondering if we had a deputy city manager position that would take care of economic development and also direct supervise 3 or 4 departments, whether or not we would be able to stretch a little bit better and still accomplish all of what we need to accomplish at this particular time.
Mr. Mayor, and I want to let Mr. Huber, but may I ask at his point how much the city would save under the deputy city manager and the economic development? I'm sorry to cut you off.
No, it would actually cost more. My guesstimate would actually be around $30,000 more, and that's just a guesstimate. And that's why I offer those other type of suggestions that would maybe be able to cover that. And allow that to still happen. So essentially, economic development would go away, but it would go we would of course search for a deputy city manager that has management experience, but also economic development experience, and that would be their doing. And again, Mayor and Councilman Grijalva, it would be again funded. I'm guessing $30,000 or so. That these other things could maybe be phased in. Now, as far as adopting the budget, adopting the budget just says that we promise we won't spend more than this. And so I think there's still some items, at least I would feel much more comfortable with moving forward, even if we approve the budget, as far as coming back to the council. Some of the items that I know Councilwoman Morales brought up, and maybe other people have some of the same concerns or different concerns, and I would hope that we might be able to bring those up to be able to be discussed, because it is very difficult at this particular point, at this particular hour, to be able to make numerous amendments to see whether or not they will fly to make these changes. So that's a long answer.
That was a lot of explaining, but I want to focus on I mean, we're conducting city business, so I'd like for you to tell us what specific items you would like for us to consider in readjustment on the budget, because I think it's urgent that we right. I mean, we need it by law, right? So I'd like for you to simplify, Councilman Hewish, what would you like to do? What particular item at this moment stands out to you?
Well, the particular item, and let me ask one question to help me understand this. The tourism specialist that we have right now is grant funded?
It is not. Well, we have a tourism specialist / transit dispatcher, because they do 50% is being paid from the general fund, and the other 50% is being paid from transit. So if the purpose of this was to fund it fully from the general fund and only function as a tourism specialist versus doing the dual role.
Okay, then help me understand, because this says that it would be a new position. Oh, no, hold on. Fund full-time.
Correct.
Okay, and so move them away from transit? Is
That's
that
right.
And okay. Now, the position of the person that's working at David's office, Mr. Carranza's office now, is that the grant-funded one that I'm thinking about?
That's the VISTA volunteer.
The VISTA volunteer, comes through that.
It's a different.
Okay. So based on that, I would suggest that we don't make the city attorney a full-time position, and that I'm torn about the tourism specialist, Mayor, because I see the need, but I think it's early, so I would suggest that position remain the way it is, and that the student resource officer also be put off for a year or so, and then that would capture enough money to be able to fund the deputy city manager position that would take over economic development and also have direct supervision of certain departments within the city. Okay.
So that was a lot of information, and I'm trying to simplify the conversation as best as I can. Considering the fact that you all sat there for countless hours to bring forward a recommendation, how does the council feel with the current recommendation from Mr. Hewish? Right now we have an item on the floor to adopt the budget as is, as we discussed. Depending on the consensus here, we move forward into the next item.
I have a question about the deputy city manager and the economic development position. If they were to be combined, why would we need an economic development department? Because they can't be, the deputy can't be over his own department or his or her own department. So would we absolve that department, Mr. Pedrosa, or do we still need it?
Mr. Mayor, Councilmember Grijalva, I don't think you would absolve the department, but just allow me to clarify on the numbers side, because if you do fund the deputy city manager with new sales tax money, and that sales tax money is basically new money that you didn't have before. And the economic development position, you're basically freeing up old money, I guess you can call it. You're freeing up whatever that costs, yet incurring a higher cost and funding it with new money. So essentially, I see what Mr. Hewish is saying, in that it would cost more, but looking at it with new money and old money that we already have coming in, there is that to consider, is that it's not just, we can't blend the two, because that deputy city manager is supposed to be funded with the 1 cent.
Thank you for the clarification.
Mr. Mayor, then I would like to move to amend the motion to remove funding the city attorney full-time. And I'll take it one by one, because I'm not sure where everybody stands on that. So that's the first one.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I'd like to have a little discussion on that. if I
Sure.
may.
Yeah, of course. We're gonna, so we have a motion to amend defunding the city attorney. Motion by Councilman Hewish and second by Councilmember Morales.
Just as a point of clarification, the motion is to remove funding city attorney full-time.
Correct. Okay. And now, Mrs. Lindemann.
Oh, thank you. I'm just wondering, there's so many hours in the day, and legally takes time. So, are we saving any money if what needs to be done is then farmed out to another attorney whom we pay, I'm sure, premium rates for in those cases? And then instead of just saying full-time, maybe we should just increase. Now, I don't know how much hours, but, what needs to be done takes time. So we've got to put somehow more hours into the work that needs to be accomplished. Maybe short of full-time, but still. Are we saving anything if we have to farm things out?
Any other comments here?
I just wanted to comment because I did have this discussion with the interim city manager, and she was very stern on the importance of a full-time city attorney with the port of entry coming in, because of all the legal work, all the land stuff, all the legal mumbo jumbo. No offense to the attorney for me saying that, hopefully, but it's going to be very important, because as he's doing right now, sort of the situation that we were in is overtime, working overtime, just concentrating on city business right now. If we expand, especially with Purteville, the Bay Acres, and the port, that's going to take more hours. So is it going to sacrifice city business to take care of the new annex stuff, or are we going to sacrifice the annex stuff to take care of more city business? That sort of makes me uncomfortable, because then if it gets to that and we're not funding it full time, it's going to go into overtime, into money we don't have, into money we're not budgeting. So that sort of makes me, with the conversations I've had with Mrs. Watson, she's adamant about it. It sort of makes me uncomfortable with what we talked about earlier with the annexing and the port, that we're going to put more on an attorney and not fund it for the appropriate hours.
Very good.
I have a comment, Mayor.
Yes.
Even though we may need an attorney when that happens, I mean, we're still looking at a couple of years before we approve this port of entry. So we can always revisit it at that time. And if we have the need to have a full-time attorney, then we can certainly bring it up then and vote on it.
Okay. Very good. Any other comments?
May I ask what's the difference between right now the full-time and the part-time, numbers-wise?
50,564.
Did that answer your question, Mr.?
Yes.
Very good. Very good. Okay.
Mayor, can I just
Yes.
have a question or a comment? And I guess this is to Councilmember Hewish. What's the purpose of these changes? It's just, I understand, is to have more cushion in the budget. Because to me, it seems like the recommendation is because we can have a balanced budget with all the things that they're asking or recommending. I understand that, yeah, if there's no need, then we don't have to fund it. But what's the purpose of doing these changes, at this point?
Absolutely, yes. The reason being is because I think no matter how much the budget is, we still need to be fiscally responsible. Okay. Very good. So let's go on a roll call for the amended item on Mr. Hewish on the floor right now.
Councilmember Grijalva?
No.
Councilmember Soto?
No.
Councilmember Shelton?
No. No.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
No.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
No. Motion failed. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to move to amend the motion to remove the funding of the full-time position of tourism specialist.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
No.
Councilmember Soto?
No.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
No. Motion carries. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make another motion to amend that we not fund the student resource police officer position for this year. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Mr. Hewish. Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. And I think that Mrs. Pedrosa is going to have.
I was just going to suggest that maybe we can have Chief Fullen come and speak into the position as to why that's needed.
Okay.
And for the record, I don't believe Mr. Soto has a national conflict of interest. If for whatever reason you feel you need to avoid any appearance of impropriety, you're free to recuse yourself. But from a legal standpoint, on that motion, I do not believe you need to recuse yourself. Thank you.
Chief Fullen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the opportunity to address this item. It is my professional opinion that this position is a long time in the coming and is long overdue. The consideration was not my own solely, but through conversation with the administration at the Douglas High School as well as the superintendent's office, identifying that need. Over the last couple of school years, we've seen increased calls for service at the high school due to violence among the students, cyberbullying, sexting, as well as vaping and tobacco use. That combined with going back to the very original school shooting becomes a question of why wouldn't we if we're in the position to do that? Anytime that there is a mass shooting anymore, what's the first comments that are heard from the city leadership or city leaders is, we never expected it to happen in our town. That luxury is no longer there. We have to be prepared for that, and this is one of those ways of being prepared for that, to have an officer on campus to address those issues. My idea was doing it this way because there was an alternative way through grant funding. That has some strings that are attached to it with expectations for the officer to be instructing the student body in a certain number of hours. This way, he or she would be solely focused on enforcement, would not be involved in administrative type actions. That's the administration's job, but again, just maintaining that presence and level of control.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor. I have Mr. Shelton.
This past year, I've never seen it like this before. Only been around 50 and a half years, okay? I don't know where we're going, where society is going, but this is definitely needed. Is the school district going to foot part of the bill? okay?
That is for discussion, Mr. Shelton,
Okay.
members of the council.
Good. But this is, hey, we're not at the situation where, my, English teacher would throw me out because I was chewing gum. I mean, we're in a situation where some of these kids come high, some of these kids come in, and we need an extra muscle there, especially this year, to calm them down, okay? And this is coming from my heart right now. This is coming from, I don't believe what they're saying out there in the hallways sometimes. I don't have any problems because I still have what it takes to keep the lid on. But there's a lot of new teachers that don't. And some of the music you hear in the hallways is vulgar, violent, you know, and we just need that extra oomph there to do this. This is not needed. This is absolutely needed. Thank you.
Mr. Lehman?
I was just wondering, Mr. Flores, are you confident that we don't have a conflict of interest here, or?
Yes, very confident, Mr. Lehman. Thanks for asking again. Basically, conflicts of interest have to do with monetary pecuniary gain to your pocketbook, and I don't believe this entails any of that.
Okay, thank you.
Chief, I think that your leadership is obviously one of the most important. Your job's one of the most important roles in our community. And the fact that you're bringing this forward, and I couldn't agree more with Mr. Shelton. Safety is essential in any community, and I wouldn't dispute this with anyone. If we can better the education system through safety, I mean, it's a no-brainer. So thank you for explaining and emphasizing the need for this decision. Roll call.
Okay, I have one last question before we go to the vote, please. You did say that you had talked to a school administration and they were aware and on board with having this officer?
Councilmember Livingston, that is correct. The request actually came from the school initially.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, this is definitely needed.
We're good?
Unfortunately.
Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
No.
Councilmember Soto?
No.
Councilmember Shelton?
This is in favor of it? Yes.
Take it out.
To take it, yes, no, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. Councilmember Hewish?
No.
Councilmember Lindemann?
No.
Councilmember Morales?
No, in light of his speech, no.
Mr. Mayor?
No. Mr. Mayor? Mr. Hewish?
I think this is the last one, and that's something that comes to my mind. I move that we amend the motion by amending the deputy city manager's job description by adding an economic development background, and also to supervise various departments determined by the city administration, and eliminating the economic development director's position once the deputy city manager position is filled.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Councilmember Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Any discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I would like for Councilmember Hewish to repeat.
Sure.
It was a little lengthy and I couldn't get it all
No
right.
problem. Amending the motion and by amending the deputy city manager's job description by adding an economic development background. And eliminating the economic development director's position once the deputy city manager's position is filled.
And to supervise, you said various.
I'm sorry, and to supervise various departments as determined by administration. Thank you.
Any comments? So we have a motion on the floor by Mr. Hewish, second by Councilmember Morales. Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes. Motion carries. Nothing, Mr. Hewish, that's it, okay. Now we go back to the original, on the floor, correct? Mrs. Levy?
That is correct, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so we've had a robust discussion, and I believe that we're ready to jump into roll call.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, just before action is, we're setting the ceiling, just making sure we're setting the ceiling of spending. We'll bring back the final budget in July, which will finalize things for the year. And this is with the understanding, I believe, the way it's being presented, is that we're paying that off early, and we can have the authorization to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Was that the, right? Yes.
That's right.
Yes, that's right, that's the agreement.
We don't need to meet again, right, Mr. Bellos at the Finance Committee?
No, Ms. Morales.
Fantastic. So we're okay with roll call? Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, motion carries. Item number 20, a discussion decision on approval of resolution number 19-1348, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona. Sierra Vista IGA for Human Resources, Sierra Vista, oh my gosh, sorry. Let me start over. Approval of resolution number 19-1348, a resolution of the Mayor and Council of the City of Douglas, Cochise County, Arizona. Sierra Vista IGA for Human Resources Services authorizing the execution of a memorandum of understanding with the City of Sierra Vista to provide human resources services support. Mrs. Odessa.
Real quickly, this is just a memorandum of understanding. We're requesting with the City of Vista HR department for them to be able to help us out whenever we need an evaluation of certain aspects that would be beneficial if done by a third party. It's not like we're asking them to later they think, but it's more of a, if it's something that needs a third party evaluation or we benefit from, then we would take that. Nothing more than that.
That was simple. May I have a motion to approve?
Mayor?
Mrs. Rose?
I move that Mayor and Council approve resolution number 19-1348.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Morales, second by various council members. I'm going to take Mr. Shelton. Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilmember Grijalva?
Yes.
Councilmember Soto?
Yes.
Councilmember Shelton?
Yes.
Councilmember Hewish?
Yes.
Councilmember Lindemann?
Yes.
Councilmember Morales?
Yes.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, motion carries.
I make the motion to adjourn.
Item number 21, informational items and reports from council and future agenda items, item requests.
It's not an agenda item, but I just want to say something really quick. It was brought up on Facebook that there's a couple that needs help, and I wanted to applaud Clarissa Velasco Wicker. She's also the owner of Awful Life. She manages it. This couple has needed food. They were incurring medical expenses. The whole community has come together. They bought some bread, canned food, whatever. For the few people that stayed in this room, if you could help them out, they live, they don't have electricity. So, I mean, if we can help them out whatever way we can, it's highly appreciated. I just wanted to put out there and also give her kudos for going beyond and helping her fellow man.
Thank you, Councilman Tejada. Anyone else has any words? Mr. Hewish?
I would like sometime in the future to get a report on our cleanup efforts as far as properties. I visited the boundary area between Councilmember Soto and Councilmember Grijalva's wards, and I was appalled. And looking at some of the things that are out there that need to be hauled away, torn down,
something needs to happen.
Okay.
And so I just revisit that and see where we're at, some of the ordinance and.
All that's agreement.
Yeah, I just want to, for next month, maybe, just give a little update on our town hall meeting that we had in May.
Terrific, absolutely. We can definitely do that.
Mr. Mayor, our city attorney has some information to provide.
Okay, Ms. Flores.
With respect to item number 11.
You mean with reference to direction versus the vote?
That's correct.
Okay. On item number 11, we had noticed to the public discussion direction. We ended up voting on it. What I want to do is I want to proceed under that vote and begin the investigation. We're going to bring an item back next month to ratify the fact that we voted on the direction item.
Okay.
So we'll get that cleaned up, but the matter is going to proceed forward.
Are you guys okay with that, Council?
Yes. And if I may answer, sort of comment on Mr. Hewitt's point, I've had discussions with Mrs. Watson on it. This upcoming budget, we budgeted more for that kind of stuff. We didn't have a lot of budget. And Renee from Public Works has done a great job. He has his list of what he's doing, so it's getting done, slowly but surely.
I do want to share with you all that I did attend a conference last week at Los Cabos. We were hosted by the Minister of Foreign Affairs. Had an opportunity to talk about the Port of Entry project, some of the things that we've been doing. It was a great experience because we were among some of the elitists and very some of the richest people in the world, and I was able to show Douglas, Arizona. So if any council member wants to sit with me, talk to me about some of the things that I shared during the presentation, that was part of a panel, I'll be more than happy to do that. In closing, I do want to thank Mr. Pedrosa, along with the finance team. I think that what happened tonight was really incredible. Everyone's perspective is highly respected, and I love the conversation that was flowing throughout the council tonight, and that's what really makes it special. So thank you, council members, for the hard work. I know that we made some tough decisions tonight, but at the end of the day, we work in the best interest of the city, and I truly respect everyone's leadership in this governing body. So thank you very much. May I have a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion by Councilmember Shelton, second by Councilmember Morales. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Motion carries. Meeting is adjourned.
It does change things, and we need to be able to get somewhere, and those, I think to the public, I want to make sure what I take is accurate, because the last year that I did, I was just suddenly calling out leadership, this is accurate, yes, this is accurate, yes, this is accurate, yes. Because not being a competition, I don't know how you do it. I'll let you know. All right. Or Saturday, yeah. I'm gonna see if you're wrong. For a copy of our. Yeah. Because I get that in my packet. Okay. Yeah, so I'll get my entry. All right, so those are more. Hey, how are you? You.
I wanted to thank you again. I wanted to thank everybody, but I had something at home and I told her Oh, yes. Thank you very, very much. Thank you.
Yeah, the speaker.
Hey, thank you, sir.
What are we doing with the extra money?
We have some extra money actually. That's good. That's good though. If you didn't approve the special tourism, entonces hay que allocate for tourism programs.
Yeah.
Advertising.
We'll do it. You guys recommending. That's why I asked the question. Taking on the thing.
Okay. Bueno, pues, César, thank you.
Gracias, Ryan.
Bye. Injury.
Hello.
Yeah, there's nobody in the room.
Are we live streaming?
Yeah, is it still live streaming?
What? Sorry?
Is it still live streaming?